Scott Pet Products is your local expert on developing, producing, and distributing top-quality pet products. We are currently seeking motivated individuals to join our team. Benefits include insurance after 90 days, PTO, 401k, 4-day work week, discounts on products, opportunities for advancement, and so much more. Interested applicants may apply online at scottpet.com or by visiting our Rockville location to fill out a paper application. We look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, we'll get started. Debbie, you're on.
All right, good morning. I think everybody knows who I am, but I'm Deb with the Soil and Water. I've just got some handouts here real quick. I'm not asking for anything. Our budget is you only pay my salary. That's just an update. First page is some of the practices that have been installed through the SWCD, NRCS, and ISDA in our county, and how much nutrient and sediment we've saved from going into the water. The next page is just a couple little updates, the grants that we've applied for and received. We did just apply for a 205J watershed planning grant for Big Raccoon in Mill Creek in Parke and Vermilion County. If we get that funded, we'll eventually have probably about $250,000 in cost share down the road to help do best management practices to try and keep our streams and the sediment and everything cleaner, everything from going into the Wabash. So that's the end goal, keep the water clean. So appreciate you guys, and later at a regular meeting we'll come and we'll do a little presentation of some of the stuff we've got going on. We do have a position open, our grant funded natural resource technician just took a job with NRCS. He just told me today he's getting his start date. So we are looking for another conservation resource technician. Know anybody, send them our way. So it's actually a $30,000 grant funded position. Actually makes more than my position, but that's okay. I make him do a lot of hard stuff. So anybody have any questions for me?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for the candy.
Yeah, thank you for the candy.
It worked.
You need sweet.
Take more than that.
Jason, whenever you're.
Good morning, guys. I think everybody knows.
Good morning.
All right.
Probation's department. I didn't have any major changes to speak of on my budget. Our third PO position is we still are looking for doing a grant request rather on his position through DOC. I've done that for the last 5-6 years now, I think, and I'm hopeful that we'll get that once again. That's really about it. It's pretty short and sweet. Sorry if anybody's got any questions on what I did submit or.
No, you pretty much
Try to keep it
as
simple.
usual carried pretty much everything right over. It's in the administrative side has the part of the salaries for two of for yourself and one of the other ones. Supplemental, juvenile, there's a little bit, of course, normal stuff there that comes time and time again. No change in the remote monitoring fund.
Yeah.
Pretty much straightforward.
All right. Okay. Anybody else? Questions?
That was simple.
Thanks for coming down.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
The treasurer want to go ahead and go since we've got a little downtime?
Okay, sure. I don't think mine's changed other than for my 3 counter computers weren't updated when the other computers were updated, and Randy said they need to be done. So I asked him what that would cost and added it. I don't remember now, but it's in there. $2,250. Everything else is the same.
And that's for 3?
The 3 up here at the counter
3 there.
that we take the payments on.
As you all remember, we did a lot of computer upgrades a couple years ago throughout most of the building, if not all of it. And those were done.
And then in my office, we just hit the major ones that, you know, we actually work at all year long, not the
Right.
3 county.
That's for a small increase in extra clerical.
Yeah.
There, you want any elaboration on that?
No, no elaboration. I just want to make sure I have enough money. If I don't, it goes back to you guys.
Good.
Any questions for the treasurer?
Are you getting good response on the Amish on mail-ins on that?
Yes,
Stuff good?
we do a lot.
That
of
worked out well, then, good.
Yes,
Good,
they really appreciated that.
good. We worked to get the permits, buggy permits, so they could do them all at once. They didn't, they were embarrassed about how many people were not getting them, and so they worked pretty hard by getting them done, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of getting their people in to buy their buggy permits.
Yes,
Good.
They were really responsive to being
Yes,
talked
they
about,
were.
so they did good.
yes.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, thank you. Means, do you want to talk about a little insurance while we got some downtime?
Well, just,
on?
I wonder how we
Why?
can, I wonder how we get structured, the money coming in. Right now, we're about, and we are typically every year, but right now, today, we're about $275,000 under budget. But there's no way to show on that because there's no specific line item for insurance. The whole idea of being self-funded was that you have the budget, but if you have surplus left over, instead of it going to the insurance company, you keep it yourself, and then you can apply that toward next year's premiums to keep the premium increase low. Last year we had quite an increase, if you remember, on the reinsurance. If we knew how much we had in that line to use, we could have paid down some of that reinsurance, not seeing the percent increase that we saw.
Well, I can tell you how much is in the line here just shortly. I mean, there's a line that's
Okay,
tracked.
how much is it right
Well,
now?
we're looking right now.
The self-insurance line is at this point 1.47 million. It started the year at 1.16. It always goes up and then comes back down as we get later into the year.
So do we know how much at the end of the year, how much surplus we had? How much income?
1.16 where we started the year.
Okay, so we have in that
And that
1.16.
self-insurance fund.
Yeah, okay.
Is where that money goes.
The hope was when we set up to do self-funding, then that we could use those, at least some portion of those reserves to offset the increase. We wouldn't have such a big increase from year to year, and try to pick some number, $500,000 or whatever, to leave in the reserve in case you had some catastrophe, which we haven't had. But right now we're just going straight on increase, and they come and tell us what the increase is, and we pay that full increase, and then it adds to that line item on what the surplus is at 1.1 million. Start the year 1.3 now, and that shows that we're about almost 200, probably 250 now, or 275 ahead of budget. So if there's some way to use that to offset the increase every year, our increases wouldn't be so much. That's the whole benefit, because in the old ways, when you're fully insured, they like the companies that they represent to work at about 75% utilization, and then they get to keep the rest. So when we went self-insured, we're still the same utilization, but we get to keep the reserve, and then the reserve can be used then to offset the premium increase the following year. But we don't ever realize that, because we don't really see what that is when the increases come in. That's why it's growing so much. That's why we got 1.3 million sitting in that fund, which is about half a year's worth of premiums.
And that's well and good, but the issue still ends up being our neighbors to the west are 60% of our insurance costs. And
Apex needs,
We
I
have to
really
get
wonder
it.
if we need to get away from Apex.
Well, it's what we're finding out. I'm in the process of that right
I think we need to get
now.
away from
I've been meeting with another company right now. They work through Anthem. It's already sudden out of Indianapolis, actually Brown & Brown now. They sold. But we won't have firm numbers from them until we see what the September numbers are. So we should have some real serious bid from them coming in here the end of, at least the 1st of October. We're meeting with Apex September 8th, and we're going over where we are, what the renewal might be. They were looking at changing the pharmaceuticals. That should save a considerable amount of money because our pharmaceuticals aren't operated very well. And so we'll see what our options are, but we'll have more options this year than we've had in the past. If you remember, we're only with Apex all these years because nobody else would give us bids. Nobody else was interested in us. So it's been a long time turning that around. And we went to market multiple times, and they went to market multiple times. And that's why we're with UMR now, because nobody else wanted us. Anthem wouldn't even give us a bid. So it's not like we're in a catbird seat. We can pick whoever we want.
Right. Well, one of the things in this budget is, and the question becomes, in my mind, and we penciled it in there, but it may come out, whether or not we grant any increase at all in the insurance line this year, or for 22. I mean, we put in, I'll be honest with you, we put in 5%. I don't really can tell you what 5% is, but we put it in there. But I'm not sure whether that should stay in there or not. Should we even, that's a decision that the 7 of us will be making, whether or not we're going to even grant the 5%.
Yep, you just
Because if you remember, 18% last year.
Well, and that could have been offset had we used some of that 1.1 million that we had in reserves, which is what the purpose for that was, but we didn't use that.
No, I mean I don't believe that's a fair, entirely fair statement. We punch based on the guidance that they give everyone or you all. Then there's an amount of money shoved over into that self-insurance that covers when somebody that covers all these expenses, right? Because then the bills get paid out of that thing. All right. Yeah, you could work it down. There's no argument there. You could burn it down some. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, you still have to carry a pretty decent balance in there if you all of a sudden had a whole bunch of employees hitting that $75,000 number.
Well, we have reinsurance to cover all that. That's
Up to that, after that.
up to $5 million.
After that.
And the chances of us having a $5 million is not
Well, maybe so.
not likely. Yeah,
Maybe so.
We think that's pretty well covered. But that was the purpose of going self-funded. You keep that surplus instead of the insurance company keeping that surplus, and then use that to offset your premium sum. And we just don't see that.
But as I recall, last year when we had this discussion about this whole 18%, the biggest part of that was administrative.
Well, it's all administrative because we pay our own bills, so it's all administrative costs.
It wasn't really the fact that we used
the 18% was the increase on the reinsurance. The people who paid the reinsurance because we had a big. Remember we had
we had some big claims.
2 or 3 huge claims, ongoing claims. Those have disappeared now, so I expect us to be in pretty good shape this year because we don't have any pending long-term expenses. So I don't think we'll have I think that 5%. I'm hoping that 5% would be adequate. But that's up to you guys. You tell us what we have to spend. And
Well,
either
I'm just telling you, it is in there right now.
Okay.
Now, whether or not these gentlemen leave that in there or not, I don't know. We'll decide that before the end of the day, whether they want left in there or
Right.
not.
All we can do is work with what you give us. If you give us enough to do what that plan, we will. If not, we'll have to make
But I
changes.
certainly agree with you that the pharmaceuticals, that needs an overhaul.
They always do. That's why you typically go to market every 3 to 5 years on those things because they get comfortable and they will change the as they see what your experience is. They will change the formulary around to benefit them, of course, rather than benefit your employees. So you have to go to the market from time to time to make sure that you can offset that. It's just an ongoing struggle. Trouble is, we don't have companies competing to have for our business. That's where we are. There was a push, if you remember last year, to go to, in fact, the push really came from the sheriff's office first, and then I met with the people, and they wanted us to go to a union plan that Terre Haute just changed to, and I was not at all comfortable with that. In fact, the guy I was talking to really didn't even know what his plan entailed. He was just a salesman, so we chose not to go that way, and then Terre Haute bailed out of that. Terre Haute got out. It was a bad move for them, and they got out, and it cost them $1 million, and we didn't go down that path, so it's a tough call. But we can create whatever fund we have. Whatever you give us, we can create a plan for that. And if that means cutting benefits, that's what we have to do.
I may look at this way too simple. That may very well be that case. But when all-in premiums across the river are at 21 to 2,000 and ours are 35, there's something wrong.
And I don't know what their deductibles are. I don't know.
Their deductible is very similar to ours. It's within $1,000 or so. Their HSA contribution is lower, no doubt, but that doesn't make up the difference.
Sure.
We will know.
I'd have to see.
They can't be that much better of a pool to insure them.
I have no information on this stuff.
So something has to.
We'll look at it, like we always
Just bring
do.
your Tootsie Roll.
I thought you said.
There's a whole bag of
No,
candy
bag
right
of
there.
candy.
There you go.
Donuts right
Yeah,
there.
Merry Christmas.
Get in on that.
Merry Christmas. How are things going?
Wonderful. How
Wonderful.
are you?
Oh, glad to be here. Kim doesn't believe me. Go ahead. You're on, sir.
We're on already?
Yeah. It's your time. You're right on time.
I walked over here in a hurry. I'm out of breath.
Well,
Always heard you were windy.
What do you want to know?
anything you want to tell me?
I don't know. I think it's all pretty much
Pretty much same old, same old.
pretty much same old, I think. We did it a long time ago, so I can't remember. Is that the service stuff? Okay, we did put in for some extra money for service contracts.
And that is for,
Well, there's a few different things. One is something called TLO, which is a kind of an investigative tool that we use occasionally, but more often than not, it's the sheriff's office. And actually, we've just added some of the guys from RPD to it as well, so that they have access to it. It's basically kind of a big background check on people, former addresses, things like that, when they're doing investigations. I don't know, have you used it yet, Cameron?
I have. I did a test on myself the other day, and
Just to see what
pass.
Just to see what
I
kind of
did.
stuff
It.
popped up.
I mean,
It's amazing. It pops up a lot of information. So
family tree, known associates.
it's
Past
a
phone
useful
numbers, email
investigative
addresses.
tool, and I mean, if we weren't paying for it, I'd say there's a real good chance that sheriff's office and/or RPD would want to have the same service. This way, we pay for it, and initially, I thought RPD had been added a while ago, and that didn't get straightened out until just recently. But one of the other things we've kind of added on recently is that the hospital in Clinton would always, if we took someone down there, arrested for a presumed drunk driving or whatever, they would draw the blood, but they wouldn't test it there. So we got to get the blood and then wait for the results because it'd have to go to the state lab, and sometimes that can take 6 months before we get results, which, depending on the circumstances of the case, that can be a problem. Sometimes, you've got plenty of other information to go ahead and arrest the person, but sometimes you don't, and you're kind of like, we think they're on something, we're not sure. So sometimes if you don't get those quick results, you're put in a situation where you're looking at, well, they're probably going to have to get released and potentially be back on the street for 6 months until we get the results. So anyway, this is something relatively new. I think we've been maybe less than a year doing it. Usually it costs somewhere in the range of $150 to get that test done. So far, so good, I think. I think it's been, I don't know if you've gone down and got a quick
Not
test result or
personally.
not, but we haven't done a bunch of that, but do you have any idea roughly? Like I said, when I signed on, it was, obviously there's a concern anytime you sign on to extra service type stuff, but if it gets to the point where we're spending way too much on that, we can just say, well, I guess we'll go back to the old way of doing it. But it's been very handy to get those quick results. One of the other things was we had signed on to a shredding contract. It's not a new shredder, but it's an outfit that comes every couple months for $80 a month. Picks up what we have.
You know we're going to have our own now, right? You heard
I knew that. We had signed on to this contract prior to those discussions.
Yeah. Yeah, it is going forward, we'll have that here.
And so, I mean, we're kind of, I guess my thought was we'll kind of see how that goes going forward. It's worked well for us because they show up every couple months, pick up a couple big boxes.
Yeah.
They're about that tall and like that. So it's, as you might imagine, we accumulate quite a bit of stuff pretty quick.
How long is your contract with them for?
It's a 5-year contract. I mean, you can get out of it early by paying a little bit, but
But we'll have access
I
to
think it's-
innovation all the time here.
I think it's like roughly $80 every 2 months,
Every time you pick up.
which is basically 2 months, unless we call them and say, hey, we weren't busy, we don't need you. But so I mean, we're looking at roughly about $480 maybe a year on that. Something I'm forgetting. TLO, blood test, service contract, or on the shredding. And I apologize, the previous letter I sent, I don't think really mentioned what any of that was for. And I think what happened was years ago, we used to do that, and I used to be a little more clear on that. And then I think somewhere along the way, we created a form letter because a couple times we bought some surveillance equipment we didn't necessarily want the public to know about. And I think I just screwed up and didn't go back and change the form letter that we were using.
Just so it's a form letter, then yeah, this is not court where you can just use the same form
So,
we used last year.
So hopefully going forward, I will remember to be a little more specific about what they're.
Well, I think
for.
It was fine.
it was submitted.
It was fine.
It was submitted. Because I read it.
And-
Obviously, because I asked the question 2 days ago, what's it for?
And lastly, it is out of pretrial money, so I mean,
Well, the service contract is split between your general fund budget and pre-trial, right? I mean, that's what I have in front of me.
Correct. And
Which one?
we pay.
all of that. Okay.
There's,
It's just there's a pair of line items here, and they got basically the same amount of money.
But there's certain things we pay out of just the general fund, and certain things we pay out of the pretrial fund.
Stamps in that too.
Stamps is out of the general fund. Leads online, I think, is out of the general fund.
Leads online, that's just another investigative tool that it has been used quite a bit. And again, it's another one of those types of things, if we weren't paying for it, I'm sure the sheriff's office and or RPD would be either paying for it or hitting you guys up for it. So,
No, as I asked you the other day, or said the other day, you obviously know there's going to be a shredder in the basement.
yeah,
We'll
and
see
I'm
how
certainly
this
open
goes.
to,
You're
you know,
in the contract right now, so
if in
we'll
a couple
go
of years that looks like that's going great, then, you know, maybe we can switch over.
And that's all I ask for you is to be open to.
And the stamps, I think we've talked about before, that kind of got, a couple of years ago, I don't remember, they changed the rules on who had to do service for stuff. It used to always be the clerk's office, now we have to do a lot of our own, so.
So remind me, a lot of your filings now are all electronic now, is that right? From what you would file with the
It's
clerk?
electronic filings, but, you know, we have paper copies.
Sure, no, I wasn't going, I understand, and that's fine, but I was just going from the filings up there. It's
Everything
all,
that we file is electronic except for juvenile cases.
except for juvenile stuff.
And those still have to be hand filed.
Okay, so then what happens when the defense attorney has to file or answer? Is it the same, they're under the same deal? So then they are electronic as well?
Yes.
They're required to do that as well.
No, I wasn't talking about the whole shredder thing. I was just curious about how the filings are.
So now we file electronically, but we still have a hard copy.
Yeah.
So we say,
Well,
Well.
yeah.
I'm not.
Go on.
I mean, I've been to other counties, you know, on special prosecutor stuff where the local prosecutor pulls out their computer, pulls everything up. Sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't.
Right. Sometimes we can't find where it was.
You know,
I understand.
so I like to have my paper copies.
Sure. No, that wasn't the reason I was asking. I wasn't asking because of that. I just want to know about the clerk's filings is what I'm asking about. Because of, you know. So. Okay, anything, I guess we got to do, if you're done, Steve, we got Gina's doing Title IV. D.
I don't think that we changed anything with mine at all, except for salary. And that will be what it is.
We always try to make sure there's enough in there to cover whatever's gonna happen, so.
Yeah, it's same thing other than salary change.
I don't know, I was told years ago if I didn't put enough in to cover whatever it ended up being, then it would end up being a problem because to come back and fix it, so we always just try to make sure there's plenty in there to cover whatever's gonna do.
Well, we always want to advertise high, and then that way we can, because we have to go the other way, but
Right.
there's certain things we can do. It's fine. Okay, any other question for Steve or Gina?
I would like to make the comment that with the shredding company, or the shredder that you are putting here at the courthouse, for child support purposes, I have to follow federal guidelines. And the federal guidelines for shredding on child support is a dust. It has to be
It's pretty close to
dust. I showed Roy the other day, he was in, and I showed him what my shred looks
And
like.
I don't know what your specs are on the one you're getting.
It won't beat that one.
I don't
It'll just meet
remember.
regular shred specs. It
Been
won't
a
beat
couple of years ago, I had to purchase my own shredder for the child support division.
Because Lord knows there are tons of people out there that are just dying to dig into old child support records.
You put them back together. That's right.
Especially when they're dust.
It's literally in pieces as small as the tip or the ink ball in that pen. I mean, it is really, really fine.
And that shredder at the
Incredible.
time cost me $6,000, and it will only take about 3 pieces of paper at a time. So I hope the shredder that you're
Yeah,
purchasing
hopefully it goes well.
like handles more paper than that.
But it's not going to shred it. It's
Well, it'll be dust when we're done. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming over.
All right.
Take some candy with you. I mean, you can get a
I ain't
chance.
seen any Tootsie Rolls in there.
Well,
Nah.
maybe we'll look around. We'll look around and find it over.
All right.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim can't stand it. Can't remember, you have to look in there. Oh man, it looks like my sugar number just jumped 12 points. That's why I never
Right there
opened
for
it.
donuts.
Fine, man.
Donut?
Chris, you're here. We're just letting you know. You're on.
Sorry,
Sure, any place.
Don't be looking at my donut though.
I'm trying not to.
You can scooch the donuts out of your way if you need more room.
Oh,
there.
no, that's fine.
Yeah, put
Basically,
them
on
on.
my grounds maintenance, we're gonna be repairing the playground next year. We had people vandalize the tunnel, actually 2 tunnels now. They punched a hole through the bottom of it. So that's gonna be pretty expensive fix. And then I was wanting to put a new split rail fence there at the entrance. And the price quote I got for that this year was $4,800. So that was the 2 major things I was looking to add for next year.
How's your, I assume your attendance been good and all of
Oh,
that?
yeah. Yep.
Revenue's good?
It's very busy on Friday, Saturday, Sundays right now too still, so,
Well, it looks nice out there. I mean, we're out there for soccer, so
yeah.
I know the people out there very much appreciate how you cooperate with them, and we don't have any issues like we did in the past.
Oh yeah,
so.
they're really good. They got a night game this week too.
Yeah, Wesley plays 8 o'clock Thursday. If you're not doing anything, you
Yeah.
can come by.
It's just neat to see those rope lights and stuff out there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's making me a little dark on it. But they do appreciate, in all seriousness, you know, how you work with them, and they, you know, because they tell me all the time, you know, he's so nice if they ask anything. They do appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem.
Any other long weight range improvements, or that you want to? We've got a few minutes. So if you want to talk about anything else,
There was
feel
a
free.
car charger that RMC and I were talking about potentially putting in next year, and it was going to be about $3,400, and then they'd pay $600 if we install it.
It's a what charger, I'm sorry?
It's a car charger for electric cars.
Oh, for
charging
electric
them.
cars.
Yeah, and we would charge them hourly.
Do you get many electric cars out there?
Not too many. It'd just be a nice amenity to have. I'm still talking with Jeremy about that, seeing what else we
I
can
have
do.
been, they need up their,
Yeah.
they need up their contributions, be what I would say.
Yeah. But also next year, I'm going to see if I can get a grant too for this playground to see if the DNR will help match it. So that might save us some money too.
Yeah.
Chris, you've been a welcome change to that department, and
Got a good team
I
out
don't know
there.
that we can, I can give you enough credit for the things you've done to make it appealing to people, and never hear anything
I would just say-
positive reviews of that place.
I would just say commissioners chose wisely.
On the recommendation of the park board.
Well, you picked that other one though, too.
Yeah.
That's water under the bridge. That's water under the bridge.
That's gone.
That's right.
You're doing a great job, Chris.
About the septic,
Thank
that's all
you.
taken care of now.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Okay, I knew it was, but she's okay with what we've done now, so.
Yep.
Okay, that's a good
Haven't heard
thing.
anything from us.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
No news is good news.
No news, that's right.
Yeah, she wrote us up on the soil absorption field, and
Oh,
basically
that's right.
it was so muddy out there, I didn't want them, they'd tear it up, they'd do more damage than good. So I had to wait a couple of weeks and then they moved it.
That's
So,
fine. I mean, she wrote us up for what, there were saplings growing on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got that care of.
She's looking, she's looking.
Yeah, I
Well,
figured she'd
she's
find
got
something
she's
every
got a
year.
vice with it, so
Yep.
Yeah.
you know.
They didn't,
told
they don't
you.
get a fine now, we don't get a fine now.
No, there's no
Is that
fine.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
I-
give us 90 days to fix
They
it.
sent it, I got a copy of it, and I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
Don't worry, go lay down.
yeah. We've already got it taken care of, so.
Well, I knew you were on top of it, so I never even bothered to call you or anything.
Also had a compliment, have a lady that wants to do a run out there this spring, and she was very complimentary too, that she
Yep.
was easy to work with on that. She was glad to get that all set up.
Cassandra?
so.
Yep.
Uh-huh, yep,
She's a very nice lady.
well, good. Got to work out.
make his head grow.
Okay, well, thank you for coming by.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a good one.
You too, be careful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You too. Oh, Dawn's out there. Katie, could you check and see if Dawn's outside there,
Be
please?
happy to.
Well, I will.
But he's out here.
Nobody, well, you want to just go ahead then?
Sure, I'll be happy to. Not much changes. I had upped my reassessment for service contracts because at that time we did not have our next 4-year cycle quote or bid signed or anything, which we do have now thanks to the commissioners last month. So that can be taken back down. So I'll start with reassessment because that's really the only one that had any changes. I had put $200,000 in there, which is what Roy and I had agreed to take it up to last year. So I left it the same, not knowing what the bid was going to be. The bid for each year will be $169,725 a year. So, which overall is down just a little bit. So you can take that down to maybe 170,000.
Towards that.
So that's
If you remember last year, we ramped that up to 200 to get caught back up. We were behind. We had been carrying invoices over to the first of the year and it had just gotten behind over time, and so we caught it up and we're back to square.
well, if the DLGF would do things on a calendar basis, that
Well,
would just be wonderful. But they don't start till May.
God forbid if they would. But it's set at 170 right now.
I did put in for raises for my people. Of course, that all falls to you guys, but Roy always tells me to put something in there, so I did. And that's the only change I made. And we've been very lucky. I went ahead and left $500 in the PETA BOA board. Currently, every one of my board members chooses not to get paid at the beginning of every meeting. They say they don't want to be paid. So,
Thank you, Kim.
well, I've got 2 that can't be paid
Oh, she can't
because
be paid, can't you?
No,
Because she's gonna
that'd be double dipping.
But
for
I've
you.
done it anyway.
But all of ours do it, every one of them, and so I
That's
thank them
nice
for
of
their service, because it's not a fun job.
Oh, no, because anybody comes in there is upset.
Yes, so, but otherwise, everything else is the same. Do you have any questions, concerns?
Thanks for getting it in early.
No problem.
Auditor's always the first one in. Every time.
You want, we can take a short break if you guys want. I mean,
I'll message the coroner and find out where she's at.
You did talk to Dawn?
Yeah. You said 9:50, right?
Oh, no, it was 8:50. Maybe I did say
You said
9:55. Did I?
Yeah.
Oops, my mistake.
I can call.
Ring him again and tell him that I messed up. Ask him if he can come up.
If he knows you messed up, he'll come.
Well, yeah, I'm going to point it out. He'll hang up the phone and say, he didn't even know what he was doing out there, did he?
He'd be right.
And you guys, seriously, I was
He
giving
doesn't
Chris
like
a
to
rough
come up
time.
to
I
this
worked with
anyway.
Chris in a previous lifetime, but he is just doing an amazing job out there at that park.
Well, you're the one that said we shouldn't get his head
No,
too
I know. I
big.
said I'm picking on him because we worked together in a previous life. He used to leave me pretty little signs saying, "Old Lady Katie, the unibrow lady." We pick on each other. That's why I was picking at him. But he's doing an amazing job.
Well, he's just so easy to get along with. If you ask him something, why, you know, here's what he can do, and even if he has to say, no, I can't do that, or it's not going to work,
He's always
why,
pleasant.
He's always pleasant about
When
it.
I worked with him previously, you know, he'd bend over backwards to do what he could.
Yeah.
And if he can't, he'll tell you why he can't. I do think he's amazing. I just had to pick on him.
I don't know, it was before me if he did, so I don't know if he did or not. Did he go to?
Yes.
What year was he graduated?
Anything, man. Before me.
I can tell you when his dad graduated, but
Yeah,
his dad was 82. He would have been, let's see.
so that was before me.
He was after Lance. Lance was 2005. He was between Lance and Gretchen. So
Chris
I'm gonna say
graduated in
87.
06.
06, he said,
Okay.
From Rockville.
Yeah, I didn't think he was.
Yeah, he did go to, you're right, he did go to Rockville.
I
His
don't
dad went to
remember him in
Turkey
class
Run.
at all, yeah.
His brothers went to Turkey Run.
Yes, but I didn't think Chris did.
I think this is a record on those shows for you guys.
Hey, could Don come up here to, no, I can't.
There's a couple of these right here that were found that they wouldn't.
Yeah, they couldn't make it.
Got it.
The veterans officer was going to Indianapolis to do something. The surveyor's out of town. The judge is at a conference.
I'll save one for you.
Yeah, for me. Be a minute. I'm gonna go to the bathroom too.
John, did you get the message from
yeah, I'm sorry.
the veterans?
Larry, Rick,
office?
donut?
I wish you'd leave that shut.
I'm
You're gonna make me get one out of there.
I'll eat one for you. That was pretty tasty. I think I'll do that one more time. Wheelhouse.
Oh,
yeah. Sure don't want one.
His employee is regular, part-time, he likes to make $12.50 an hour like the other ones.
Well, he can come. He can, if he really wants to come and talk to us, he can come at the September board meeting or our September regular meeting if he'd like. But we're not be here tomorrow, so I'll cancel. So he can come tomorrow. We can discuss it here, but
Now
It's
that's
really
the only thing
irrelevant.
He's got on here.
he's welcome to come to the September regular meeting if he wishes to
I think
discuss
it's
it.
gone.
Morning, you're up.
No, there's not any reason why.
We're taking a potty break at the moment, but they'll be right back.
There's not any reason why.
Here for donut, we got some there.
We just have to make a few decisions.
What was it, Mr.
Basically decide salaries, and that's it.
English teacher, Mr.
Several
Williams?
issues
Williams,
tomorrow
litter
anyway,
box,
so-
isn't that what he called it, the litter box?
What? Good morning.
I'll lose my
I apologize if it's me that had the time off out there.
Oh, that's all right.
I know this.
Morning.
I know this is your favorite thing to do. So
Yeah, absolutely. Every year.
yeah, since Cameron gets back, while we'll
Right
talk.
done.
My apologies on the time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Means talk to us a little bit about the door situation, that you maybe have found somebody.
I think he has, yeah.
Maybe, we'll see if we get something else, but somebody mentioned that they saw at the IGA a woodworker that does doors, staining and refinishing and stuff. So I might give him a call and see, because if we can deliver the doors to his shop too, that might be a number on that as well. Still a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. A lot of money.
What's the word on the shredder? We spent more time already talking about the shredder.
I just talked to
Do we have anything else?
Talked to a salesperson yesterday, in fact. They're looking at delivery around November. End of October, November. First part of November. The reason I called him, I didn't want it delivered through the festival time.
You don't want it in all that business?
No, didn't want to have to fight that mess, so.
Sprinkler system works. He tested the sprinkler again the other day.
We
The
got
state,
it
when they
done.
worked on the sidewalks, they tore up one of the heads and just left it on top of the concrete block like, here it is, didn't say anything to him, but he found it. They came and fixed that.
So this is a sprinkler. We have sprinklers outside, do you?
Yeah.
On the front.
Oh, we do? Oh, I didn't know that.
At least put all that money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so.
But
Well,
it
he
is-
does it so, he does it all the time. I forget which one we're talking about.
Yeah.
The sprinkler looks like a drainage problem.
Yeah. Yeah, turn this off. Okay, Don, go ahead.
Well, I'm pretty much routine, year after year, dollars and cents wise on my budget. I'm carrying about the same figures that I always have. I tried through the process to reduce the service contract figure a little bit. Mr. Reichman wanted me to up that another $500 from what I was game planning, so I did that.
It's unusual for him to up things.
Yeah, it is. It kind of shocked me. I didn't have a heart attack, but I thought I was going to. At least I like stroke. Anyway, I
tried to deliver it very gently so that you didn't do that.
Right. We brought that up another $500 on the service contracts. Most all the numbers are about the same as they have been the last several years. They seem to work pretty well. I'm still within good money so far on building maintenance for the rest of this year. I got 2 or 3 projects out right now that I'm doing, but other than that, we're in pretty good shape, I think.
When is the drainage work? This may have been said, and I just didn't hear it. When is the drainage work going to happen after the festival?
Well, I just told Mr. Meeks the other day, I'd like to postpone that until after the festival, because we have to tear up the southeast yard down here to run a main line down from the main service up here out to the curb to get into a drain box. We don't want that yard tore up through the festival time, so I haven't talked to Crane yet. He's the contractor we're looking at. But if he gets hold of me or I get a hold of him, then we'll just postpone that until after the festival sometime. Hopefully still get it done this year, depending on his schedules. He's pretty busy all the time, so it's kind of hard to get him nailed down.
I can say, thanks to Don, we found some documents that are really, really important that we preserve. I guess Karen Lewis had them in the Platts office, I guess, and nobody really knew about those. They are the original drawings for the courthouse, the original drawings. Wow. They had some water damage to them, but they're big sheets, and they're still readable. Yeah. I talked to Bill Wolf, the artist, if you know Bill Wolf, he did our murals upstairs, about who we get to save these, and so he has located somebody. I have not talked with them yet, but I will probably deliver them to them. I know it will be pricey. I don't know what pricey means, but I know it's going to be pricey. There is some water damage. Something was spilled on some of them at some point. They have some water marking on them, but we'll see. But to me, I think, and the commission I know agree, those really need to be preserved if we can save those things, because really they come in handy. when he was doing his, checking on the drainage stuff.
Yeah.
It's all
Oh, the
drawn.
drains are on there too,
Yeah.
in there, so that's
Yeah.
surprising.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's still the way the drawing was. Who knows what year it was torn up and
Sure.
changed, it all changed, but that's what it was drawn for anyway. And there are 6 sheets, I think, weren't there? 6?
5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're the 1879 originals.
Original drawings.
They show the foundation work, where the foundation was all laid, and cross-membered and everything on it. Really interesting.
So
They really are.
we may end up coming begging for money to get those preserved, but I think we really need to get those preserved. if we
Yeah.
can, so.
Still got a commissioner's budget.
Yeah. We don't spend anything anyway, so make we have to stay in there. Yeah.
Lord knows he doesn't give you $500 more, does he? Or Reitzman?
Yeah, I never did that call.
Okay, any other questions for Dawn? Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Dawn.
you coming out.
Thank you. Not a problem.
Hopefully it was as painless as possible.
We have directed him to try to find a better assistant if he can, but he can't find anything,
I
so
can't
we're
get
stuck with her for a while.
We're just stuck with Kay, I guess, for a while.
Let me put that in the minutes there. that we're stuck with it.
Me's kind of like that. She's a lot of fun, really.
She does good work.
Good worker, too.
I have nothing but compliments on festival time on how they take care of the restrooms for all the guests we have, all that horrible 10 days, and nothing but good things to be said. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. Yep. I'll get back to my project.
Did you
Okay.
notice I didn't point out that you were older than me? You notice I didn't say that?
Oh, you did. You want to do that before?
No,
I
that's
leave?
okay. We'll let it go. See ya.
Jamie.
I'll just speak on that for a second here then.
Well, I'll go ahead and let Jamie go, and then you can speak after. How's that? Go ahead.
It'll take about 5 seconds.
Well, that's all right. We don't have some banners, I think, Sam.
I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, just talk.
I'm not sure. She just gave me the copies of the stuff that she had turned in.
Okay.
So she didn't really tell me anything specific she wanted me to say.
Okay, so. Did she put anything in that about she has a request for office equipment? Is there any color on, you have any color in that stuff what that was for? Because I don't recall.
It's software and equipment, $1,000.
That's an appropriate.
Perpetuation, ID security or whatever.
Yeah. Way up.
I don't remember. She never said anything about it to me. So you have nothing on it?
As far as I know, the only difference is on it for the salary.
Yeah, on the recorder's regular budget.
That's
That and equipment.
You got that in the office supplies line.
No, it's at the bottom of her general fund budget.
Yeah, I don't.
Let me look.
Mine doesn't think like
Wouldn't be
that
the
either.
first error I made on this, so.
I don't have any equipment on mine. The office supplies are up quite a bit.
oh, I'm good, thank you.
No equipment.
Hoping they go away soon, so we don't have to be eating everything to think we need to go.
That's
That
way
extra,
up there for some reason.
the extra clerical.
She's had some this morning already, actually. I took care
Is that
of
what you're talking about, or?
Yeah.
it. All good with this.
Sorry, I was looking, sorry, I was on my fault there. I was reading that from the tracker, sorry.
Yeah, because the office supplies are the
Yeah,
same, so it's the same, it's just in the other.
My apologies. fluctuation is always clerical help and ID security software.
Yeah, she just, instead of 2 lines.
Oh, that's what they're doing.
Yeah. So
Okay.
everything's the same there.
We good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We
right.
finally figured it out. Hi, Cassie.
Hello.
Come on up or sit right. You can sit right there if you want. You don't have to
Pretty
get up.
comfy.
Well, whatever you want to do.
A lot of changing you've done there, Cassie. A lot of changing.
The girl made me to do because she was a joint tenant. So Judge Lowhorn imposed a $2,500 fine against her and me. They've got 90 days to comply. If they do,
Comply with what?
with the court order.
Which is
Clean it up.
to clean it up, okay?
Yeah, within 90 days. If they do that, the court could waive that fine.
Okay.
If they don't clean it up, it's a $2,500 fine per day from when the violation was first issued.
Wonderful.
In
That hurts.
2019, against both of them.
Wonderful. This is 2019. So we're talking big bucks.
They get yelled at.
Yeah. Talking about purple property out on 100, it's just god awful mess. It's clear out on the.
Yeah, it's
Clear
a
out on
mess.
Across from where they live.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, it's awful. And they just, you keep thinking in more. You'll get on Facebook, look for people, want stuff hauled off, they'll get in ringing and dumped.
I've been noticing, he always sends a private message to people.
Right.
I went out Tuesday before the court hearing, and he was unloading the E3s.
Just piles, just piles.
Yeah.
He's doing just stick.
He's waving his,
Stick his thumb in his eye, in our eyes, all he's doing with that, so. Sounds like there's a $2,500 fine, they got 90 days to clean it up, if it's not cleaned up, $2,500 fine goes back per day,
Per
you're
day.
back to 2019. To each of them.
$2,500.
That's $5,000 a day, back to 2019 would be the fine. Which they'll never pay, but of course, it'll be court time, then. I mean, jail time then for not paying fines, so.
There you go.
Well, if they stick him in jail, that's the,
Yeah.
That's part of the reason that it has been continued so many times is because he keeps getting thrown in jail.
he needs to stay there.
Is,
He doesn't like going to jail.
I had heard that it was up.
I personally attest to that one.
Personally attest?
Yeah. No.
What are you doing out there?
Well, see,
Randy Purple would be the name of
there was a
it.
domestic a year ago.
It is up for tax sale.
We
If
had
it is up
words.
for tax sale, they'll,
sure.
Steve Harris will buy it and build the whole thing down.
Yeah.
So, good, in September.
Well,
Let them
there's-
know, okay.
A couple of them.
I talked to him.
Did it, Steve, good, okay.
Tell you about that one at lunch.
Any idea what the taxes on it are? Okay, I'll check with you later, we can find that, so I can tell Steve. we'll know for sure.
22 flood.
Okay.
Anyway,
So yeah, there's a place. I'm not certain. I don't even know the name. I'm not going to say it, even if I did. But there, you turn at the old sanatorium, and you go up towards
I went.
Steve White's. Did
I
you go
went.
up by there?
yes.
How is
I got
that?
some
Is it
pictures.
better or is it worse
It's
or
no better or worse.
what? Okay, well,
It's hard to see.
yeah.
It's so grown up, you can't even see the house. I mean,
Oh yeah. Is it?
how far back in that
Thank
house
you.
goes.
I was thinking the house was closer to the road, but it may. I made a
I
mistake.
couldn't see it.
Couldn't see it. Okay.
So,
Oh, there's a trailer that sits up.
it's, yeah,
I mean, is there anything there? I mean, could you write them up or anything, or is it bad?
I haven't. It, just a pile of stuff as big as those tables right there. Some old scrap metal is what I can see.
What you can see, okay. Well, I was like, somehow I'll drive by there again. It's been
Yeah.
several months since I've been by there.
Yeah.
I have occasion to go that way.
I mean, you'll be able to see a lot better when the
And that may have been
foliage
when I went by, and maybe when the leaves are off,
Yeah.
you can see a lot more
is off. Yeah, you can't now.
stuff. Okay. Well, I appreciate you going out there. Other questions for Cassie as far as her budget or anything?
Any more applicants for your position?
I've had two,
2 applicants.
and it is gonna run through more times.
You have a,
Run through September.
you have a time frame that you're looking at of retiring?
Hopefully by the end of this year.
By end of this year?
I
Okay.
hope.
I
And
hope. I wish you no luck on that at all, by the way.
well, I spoke with Roy earlier, and, you know, I don't have a problem, you know, during the transition, you know, if they, whoever my replacement is, and it's the planning commission that appoints that person. Whoever is appointed, if they need assistance.
Well, they're probably gonna need your assistance.
I'd
Nobody
say
walks
so.
into this
Right.
and knows
Right.
like
So
that.
I'm not opposed to that.
How long would you be willing to stay?
We'll see how it works, how it goes.
Okay, well, if there's anything else for Cassie? Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Take care. Henry's here.
Henry may be longer winded. I think I'll go to Diane.
Yeah, let's get
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah,
Hey, I appreciate that.
that's all right.
He's quick.
Well, you're generally quick, so.
I appreciate you saying I'm not long-winded.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, that'd be fun.
Well, if you get long winded, then I'll have to say it.
Oh, shoot. Well, they're basically, it's the same amount, 165,000. Of course, the only income received is through the innkeeper's tax, and that's what we have to spend. We did move $5,000 from, I believe, operating expenses to cover bridge maintenance, because we felt that that was the most important thing to take care of, was the bridges, and other than that, everything remains the same. Do you have any questions?
How are your revenues been? I mean, I didn't know
Well,
if you were affected by COVID and how much
I
you were.
happened to bring the
I haven't. I figured you did.
It actually has been surprisingly good. I think we've all
We have
been
been.
amazed. I think because of the state parks and the Raccoon State Recreation Area, you know, people have been able to get outside, and that has been a plus for the county, and it has brought people in. So they really, okay, for the 6-month period, we have actually received $55,938.10. That's been up to July. And in the month of course, that's 3 months behind. We receive it 3 months after, right, Kim? And what we actually received in July was $17,338.52. So that was the actual revenues to the state. Then the other item that we have to contend with are the B&Bs, because those are, reservations are made online, so, yeah, so that money comes through the state, so therefore, you're not getting that money until what, another month after they're actually received to the state, because the B&Bs pay those in directly to the state. Then that money comes to Kim from the state. So it's all very confusing and hard to keep track of. But it's been amazing. And then I have a graph of where our money is actually spent, and the largest portion of our money is spent to the Indiana Office of Tourism Development and to the Indiana State Festival Association. We spent over $19,000 to each one of those. So that's where the largest amount of money is spent. If you want to look at this, you're welcome to. But the other would be our travel map, Indiana travel map. So it's basically state publications that the largest part of our monies are spent.
Diane, I have a question based on what you said earlier about moving $5,000. What I have in front of me is what you submitted. We have generally seen a a request to the order of $15,000 in postage, $10,000 in operating supplies, $55,000 in bridge maintenance, and $85,000 in publications. And what I received was, in that same order, $10,000, $10,000, $15,000, and $130,000.
Yes.
So a huge amount of money moved from bridge maintenance to the tune of $40,000 into publications.
Okay.
So my question is, I heard what you said earlier about moving more money into bridge maintenance, but that's not what was requested. So,
And that might be my fault.
Yeah,
and that may just be an error, and that's
Yeah.
why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, if I look at the 2020 report, and I think that's my fault, sir.
That's fine. That's why I want to get it right.
I'm glad you did, because, yeah, there should be 55,000 in cover bridge maintenance. That's my fault. So that should say 55,000. So it should be 10,000 operating supplies and 15,000 for, 10,000 for postage, and then 85 for publications and 55 for cover bridge maintenance. And that is my fault. And
That's still short 5,000. So where's that?
that would probably be covered bridge
I need to go to
maintenance.
60 then.
Uh-huh. And I apologize for that.
No, it's fine. That's why I'm asking, because it was way different than normal.
Yeah, that's right. Is that okay?
No, yeah, we fixed it.
Absolutely.
We
Okay.
fixed it, we fixed it.
Take care of
No problem.
Man, I was just getting ready to brag on how good she's done for us all these years too.
Don't do that.
Oh, she does great. She does great.
That's why you come into these things, so we can ask
Yeah.
these questions that come up.
Now, just take it out of my check.
Do that. Take it out of Mesa's check.
Yeah.
Don't take it out of John's. He hadn't got any.
Not any
I
yet.
don't have any yet. They've
Okay.
already got mine.
Yeah, that's my fault, and I sure apologize for that.
Oh, no
You're
problem.
good. It's all good.
That way we have it. It's correct. So,
Okay,
anything else for Diane?
thanks for that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming over.
Okay, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna tell Paul you put in for a big raise when I
Yeah,
see
that was it, wasn't it? Darn, you caught me. Oh, gosh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, lady.
Hey, and thanks to everybody here for your time, and these have been crazy times, and it's been hard, and I appreciate everything everybody's done for the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question for you.
Oh,
First, it's not this. Come here.
Paul's supposed to drive his bus this
Secret stuff,
afternoon.
yeah.
What size jacket does he wear?
2X.
2X?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
He's got a
Thank
good
you.
cook.
Yeah, that's
He
right.
does, don't he?
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
Thanks. See ya. Henry, I guess welcome. You get to actually sit in the big chair now, don't you? You don't have to.
You want me to sit up there?
You sit wherever you want to.
I'll go for it. Well, as you guys know, I'm new on this budget stuff. Roy helped me with it, so main things I changed was I increased the postage because we're sending out a lot of first class signed receipt mail that the court has told us we need to send. So I increased it by $2,500. I'm not even sure that's going to be enough.
Did you explain that? There's a reason for that.
The reason that I was told everything that goes small claims that deals with probation that they send to collections through clots has to be sent out first class mail with signed receipt on it.
And that wasn't happening before.
Apparently it wasn't happening because clots brought it to our attention when I took office that we need to be doing that. So
Just to make sure that they received the
Right,
service.
they have the
basically,
proof
yeah,
that
the
they-
proof of service.
right, we go into confirmed delivery and you can actually then put the signature into the case so that they have proof.
But that wasn't being done before.
Apparently it wasn't being done or not completely because Klotz said something to us about it.
Okay.
So that's why I increased it. And
Sure.
I'm not sure it's gonna be enough because I'm down
You gotta
to
start
like,
somewhere, Henry.
I'm like $1,700 right now left for the rest of the year in postage.
We've talked multiple times, and not about his jogging so much as about overall. He walked into an incredible mess, and he has done a remarkable job of getting it under control. So
Thank you, Jim.
you have done well.
Thank you.
Tough circumstances.
So,
not just the job, personnel, everything, and it's just one of those things where it's coming around.
Yeah, slowly but surely, we're making a huge dent have made a huge dent in the voter registration. We have right now on the counter up there 2 copier paper boxes full of voter registration cards that are either they've passed away, moved out of county, whatever. That they're not even in our system. They shouldn't be in our drawers that we've cleaned out. My person, between Putnam County, Clay County, and my person, we have cleaned up the voter registration. It's not done, but we've made a huge dent in getting it where deceased people are not on there, people that have moved aren't on there, and things updated.
And those really aren't things to blame any person
No.
for or any office for. It's just things that have accumulated that he's found and the state's brought to his attention that have just accumulated over the years. And it's just a lot of time now getting those back to where they need to be, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the other thing that I put in a request for was to make the voter registration position a full-time. The reason I did that is because after Putnam County and Clay County's helped me, they go, that position really needs to be full-time because there is so much that has to be done and kept up to date that they go part-time is just not enough. And so I've requested for that. I hope you guys give me a good chance on that opportunity to make that a full-time position because there is so much work to be done with the voter registration. That's the main things that I have. You guys got any questions?
We have an election
Right.
coming up, so you made some changes to that. It's not the same budget that's always happened there. You might speak a little bit on that.
Okay. What I've done is I work with Putnam County for the most part on that stuff of updating it to what they thought we needed to do. I'm gonna find my page here. They said that before our part-time person sat down there when early election was going on, then there would be a Democrat person there representing the Democrat side. They said that is not legal. You can't have
Has to be one from each party.
One from each party. It can't be an employee for one side and then a person for the representative on the other side. They said it has to be separate individuals. It can't be our staff. So they said we need to do that. So I did change that. I forgot about that. I'm glad you said that, Roy. Because we need to be able to pay them to be there. But like I said, we can't have our person there. They need to be in the office. So if they need to pull a voter registration card, they can pull it and give the answer to whoever's calling about it. So that's a big change that we've got to do.
So I assume that's the same with the roving board. I assume you still have to send the board out to vote people by home, or do we even do that anymore?
I assume we do.
I think
John,
we do.
this is-
I think we do.
Yeah,
And
this
it'll
is
be the
all
same
new.
thing. Be there, you'll have to have a separate Republican and a separate Democrat representative. Because I know in that case it cannot be anybody from your office. I didn't even know that.
So, and I didn't know that until Putnam was talking to us when we started. They said it cannot be a staff member in there. It's not supposed to be. So that was another change that come down the road that we didn't know.
No, it's, I think it's a bit important. I wanted to pull it up to make sure, but that even with those changes that you put in there, the election board budget is essentially flat.
Yeah, it's
just moved around from
I moved it around as mainly what it
places.
is.
It's actually lower than the last election.
Okay.
The 2020 election budgeted at about 68,000. So 57. So that's take out the voter equipment in the
Right.
2020 election because that's not equal comparison. So
Right.
Now, part of that is from the consolidation of polling places. That much money wasn't spent on that election. The consolidation of polling locations made a big difference in that, so he's also taken that into account. So the additional people that he's found that he needs for early voting is just coming out of other lines that would have been in there that didn't need that much.
So back to it's gonna take a little more convincing on your, if you wanna even have a hope to get that, you're gonna have to convince me a little more that is really truly neat. Okay, so here's what I'll say to that. I'll say, I just quizzed the prosecutor in here a little bit ago, and a lot of the filings now in the clerk's office are electronic, right? So it would seem to me then that the workload on some of those other people up there would be less. And so then why not move one of those positions into the voter registration full time?
One thing that needs to be done is all of our cases that we have need to be entered into Odyssey, scanned into Odyssey, so that it's electronic and get rid of the paper files. There is tons of paper files that need to be scanned.
The old ones.
Of the old cases, I mean, going way back. I mean, they're in the hallway in the basement, in the rooms in the basement, in the hallway upstairs, in the back room in my area, in the attic.
So basically, here again, we're mopping up for stuff that has not been done in the past.
Now, Odyssey says we shouldn't be scanning them in, but Judge Swain goes, we need them in there because I don't know how many since I've been in office we have had to scan in old cases because something's come up on that case. So we've had to find the file, scan it in, scan all the documents in. When they went to Odyssey, they only went back so far when Odyssey done it. Mm-hmm. And some of the cases at the beginning, the documents weren't scanned in. Case was put in there, but the documents weren't scanned in.
The case is there, but not the
documents
the rest of it.
Right.
And they need that.
Right. Yeah, there was one case just within the last week the judge wanted. It took me a day to find that file.
Say, how'd you find it?
I had to go looking for it. And literally, not blaming nobody because it's easy to misfile, but it was misfiled. You know, and we've had several come up with tickets. We had one just the other day said, I paid that ticket. It was from like 95. Guy's been without his license for a long time, obviously. And the girls looked for it, couldn't find it. So I started looking for it. I finally found it. And again, not blaming nobody, but it was misfiled. I mean, but that's the thing. This stuff needs to be in Odyssey so that the courts can just pull up the documents that they need instead of us having to go search for the file. And that,
I mean, how far back are we talking about going? I mean, where do you stop? Where do you stop?
And I don't know. I honestly don't know where the stopping point is. One of the cases was 95. So I don't know how far back we have to go or need to go. I don't know if it's just whenever one comes up. I mean, but Odyssey has told me, they go, you shouldn't be scanning in old files. It bogs down the system.
Agreed.
But I completely understand that. But then if, God forbid, we had a fire, they'd lose all the records. There'd be no records because they're not microfilmed. They're not digitized in any respect. So the only way we can do it is actually scan it into Odyssey. So the girls have been working on that. We had a big catastrophe here a while back because they were scanning the files in. Some people got published in the paper that the case was actually decided. Of course, come back on me, and that's fine. I'm the boss. I don't have a problem dealing with it. But what it was, the new owner of the Clintonian can actually run the report himself. He didn't know how to look at old cases. I talked to Pam Sanders. She goes, your cases are all in. I go, no, they're not all in. Not by any means. This guy had actually run the report, didn't know how to look at old cases, published them. This one individual called the judge, the sheriff's department, the prosecutor's office, called Kim. I mean, they called everybody under the sun. I mean, they were hot. Well, Kim and I looked at the papers, was it the newspapers, the Sentinel? I go, it's not in the Sentinel, where's that? Kim finally found out from him that it was actually the Clintonian. And it was all because this guy didn't know how to.
Because they did a search and the search parameters were
Yeah.
incorrect.
Well, no, he did the search parameters,
But-
but when he did the search parameters, it was because it was scanned in like the week he run the report.
I got you.
It doesn't go by the case number, it goes by the date it was scanned in. So it caused one heck of a mess. So I've now informed that owner, I go, you do not run that report and publish it, you use ours. We print it out, we give it to the Sentinel, and we give it to the Clintonian.
Clintonian.
I go, you don't use that one, because I go, you do it again, the judge is gonna have a
Ooh, boy.
major issue with you. Because once we found out it wasn't my office that did it, they give it to him. So far, to my knowledge, I've had no complaints, it's not happened again.
I bet it don't either.
I hope not, because that caused a big stink.
Those damn Italians, that's...
And even worse, Democratic Italians, that's what the problem is.
You can get by with that
I
statement,
can.
the rest of us can't.
So that's one major issue.
So that is the-
That's why we need to get the old cases in. So that's why.
How far back do the records still exist?
Oh,
18 something?
I honestly don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Since the
I bet.
courthouse before this one burned or whenever it was?
Oh, go down the big books, down in the basement. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, I
mean,
think that you
can't
need
go
to
that
really
far
think
back.
about some
Cutoff.
cutoff or
Yeah.
arbitrary date that,
Some
that
20
we're
years or
not
something,
going to
that's
do
it,
that.
yeah.
I mean, you're
I
never.
wonder, where could you get an answer, actually?
Good question, because I have talked to multiple counties, and every county I get different things.
What are some of the other counties doing that you talk to? I mean,
Well, a lot of the other counties that I've talked to were on a computer system before they went to Odyssey.
So
their records just transferred
Sure.
in.
And
We
before
were
that,
still paper.
before that, the big day was a lot of counties with microfilm. Remember microfilm
Right.
even?
Yep.
We didn't do that either, so
Yeah.
a lot of counties had a microfilm
Yeah.
at least where you could search it and find it. But that search is all physical. You're going to each
Yeah.
page, reading each page, trying to
Yeah.
find
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know what the cutoff would be on it. Nobody, I've not got a straight answer from anybody how far back theirs goes. Like I said, I know the big thing with Odyssey is you don't scan old files in. Well, when the judge says he needs
you
it to
do
be
it,
able to
you do
do
it, yeah.
the case, we don't have a choice. We just had one this week we had to get scanned in, and it was, I don't remember how old it was.
And maybe you do that. Maybe just going forward, and then whatever ones are requested, you add those, and then maybe that's it. Maybe you don't need all the excess ones.
Yeah. So,
And I don't want to sink your ship, but I've talked to counties too, and they said Odyssey's going to come to the point where it's totally bogged down.
It's
Well,
good.
you know,
Yeah.
you keep throwing more data
You know, I'll
into the
put some
system,
paper
they
in,
can't
forget
add
that
server
computer stuff.
Yeah.
storage fast enough.
yeah. So,
Storing images is not cheap either.
So that's why I feel like I can't take it away from the other staff. I mean, my one person, my fourth deputy, I told him, I go, that part of the job is the voter registration to help with it. But she's still trying to learn hers. They're all still trying to learn what they need to be doing. And we're not perfect. We're making mistakes. I mean, all we can do is do our best.
This remarkable time. This too shall pass.
Yeah, when I went to clerks conference, it was announced in the conference that I was the new clerk and all my staff was brand new.
Yeah.
I just found out
Oh my
yesterday, Owen County, their clerk just got appointed in June, and she's down to only 2 of her staff. Apparently her staff's walked out.
Quit.
She's down to 2. So another county's going through the same thing, and I've had, at that conference, I had so many counties come and offer to help me. So
When you called up on compensating them,
the last one was turned in, should pay next week. Now, I think the voter person from Clay is gonna come back some more, so I may have just a little more mileage on her, but not much.
So any of these people, we have been paying their mileage to come here, which is more than fair, I think. I mean, we probably should have done more, but at least pay their mileage.
Right.
And we paid the clerk from Putnam all her mileage. We've done the voter registration girl from Clay, her mileage. So I had Monroe County offered, they go, you pay our hotel, we'll come up and spend whatever time you need with us if you'll pay our hotel. I've not reached out to them in that respect. Clay offered, the voter registration lady there, she offered, she goes, I'll come and help, my part-time will come and help. They came and helped, cleaned up the room downstairs that had the polling stuff that goes to the precincts that hadn't, and again, I'm not blaming nobody, but it hadn't been redone for the next election.
Well, you walked into a nightmare, didn't you?
So those girls came over one day, they spent half a day, got that all done. The machines, election machines, there's a tape in it that runs and tracks it. They hadn't been taken out. Then girls in the afternoon got all those out, got them reset for the next election. They're already ready.
There is no margin of error on that. That's got to be perfect. Sorry.
And I know that.
Just a side note, Henry, I was at Assessor's Conference last week. Putnam County Assessor used to work in the clerk's office, and she said that the Putnam County girls had nothing but ultimate respect for you and the situation you walked into, and that they're willing to help anytime. And she says, as a former clerk employee, she'd be more than happy to help you as well.
Well, thank
That's
you.
great.
It's really nice to hear. Really nice. Yeah, Fountain County's been helping me, Clay County, Putnam County. I mean, I've got some tremendous help from all over.
I've been in a few offices, and the clerk's office has the best association when it comes to helping each other.
It's been wonderful.
Well, I'm more convinced than I was. I don't know. Am I ever convinced of anything?
I knew it was going to be a hard sell with you, John.
Well, you know my feelings on
I figured everybody.
My feelings is we need less employees, not more. And
Right,
I've said that from way back in the way beginning because
I
it's
understand
expensive.
that.
It costs.
And I don't argue that point. It's just with
And you and I
blind-
had the discussion about before you were elected
Yeah,
up
right.
there that even you thought that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and when I walked into it, I was going to evaluate it, but with everybody leaving,
Well, that's fair enough.
I mean-
that's fair enough. You make a good argument. I'm not saying no.
I understand.
I'm not saying no.
And down the road, I may not need all the stuff. I mean, I truly may not. I don't know.
Right.
It's just
Well, it better explains it. I do think that at some point, in all seriousness, we're going to have to decide.
Right.
You can't spend all of your time up there trying to make up for deficiencies that were happened in the past. You know, you've got to move forward from
Right.
what you're doing and make it. You know, it's just like Katie can't go back 30 years and say, oh, whoever the assessor was at that time mucked it up or whatever. I mean, you just got to move forward and
Right.
go on. I mean, in a perfect world, yes, we'd like to have everything correct, clear back from day one, but it isn't going to happen.
no. So, any other questions?
Anything else for Henry?
Thank you.
Carry on.
Thank you.
Carry on,
Thank
Henry.
you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Be careful. Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome to stay if you like or whatever.
I got stuff I need to work on.
Okay.
So
All right.
I got one girl on
I'm not
leave
running
right
you
now.
on. I'm not running you on.
I wouldn't stay either if I were you.
All right, thanks,
Yep.
guys.
See ya.
So I think we're going to take a short break. I'll try to overhaul the schedule a little bit more. Time we get back, why we'll try to have some others here to keep so we can move forward. Okay, Chris, we're back on.
So I have 3 accounts. The first one is the easiest, and that's the LEPC money. There's no change to that. That's a restricted account that comes from the state that we have certain things we use it for. We use that money to administrative costs for running the LEPC, and then making sure the fire departments have types of supplies that they use when they run into a traffic accident and they gotta soak up oil and gas. That's pretty much what we've been using it for. The next one will be the emergency management. This is a 1,000 account, so this is the general fund. I don't see any change in that. There's enough money to maintain the equipment that we have. The big expenditures I'm going to probably do with that coming up here in the year and over the next few years is going to be getting the message boards working as best they can, and that's going to be batteries. But besides that,
What do we have?
we have 10 but they don't all work. Some are beyond repair. So right now, there's probably 4 that work at different states of capability. The last one is the 1222 account. Everything except for the salaries should stay the same. There's enough money in that to keep everything going. I would ask that we raise the dispatcher's salary by $3,000, and that would include the dispatch supervisor. I worked with Justin on that. I may have entered the wrong number in. I think I put 2,000 when I should have put 3. There is enough money in that account that we can continue to function pretty well, and it's not going to cause any problems. I came up with the $3,000 based upon looking at some of the salaries around us, and we start approaching what some of the other counties pay.
How much revenue, is the revenue still holding pretty well in the 911? And you're still bringing in $220,000 a year?
Well, we're going to bring in a little over $200,000. We're guaranteed by the state to get, I think it's 206 or right around $200,000 a year. That's a guaranteed amount. And then they do this split where they take up all the rest of the money that has been brought in by the cell phone taxes. Last year, I think it was close to, may have been $57,000. It keeps rising. So we should still have more money coming into that account than we are spending. It's growing. But there's the second thing, which is all depends on how much money the state pulls in and how much money it costs to run some of the state functions.
Regarding the dispatchers, and you obviously, if anybody doesn't know, that 3 of the dispatchers' salaries are in this fund, 3 are in the general fund under the sheriff. Is it allowable to pay? Not that I'm going to do it or anything, but I just want to understand it. Can you pay all the dispatchers out of this if there was enough money?
Yes.
There's not a stipulation or requirement.
I haven't found anything that says that county has to pay a certain amount.
Okay.
Right now, the county provides, when you run all the numbers, the county, out of the general fund, or out of the sheriff's office and all the different accounts, the county's paying for over 60% of that dispatch because of benefits and everything else. I don't know if you didn't even do like other stuff like unemployment and all that, but all that stuff is coming out of, the county is paying most of that.
Yeah, it's just the 3 salaries, their salaries themselves, and the stipend for the supervisor. That 911.
Yes.
The fringe benefits all come out of the general fund for all 6.
Yes.
Because I can tell you when we first adopted 911, which was, we were one of the last counties, or the last, why there was questions about whether or not they were going to let us pay any of the dispatchers out of there, and I was like, it's 911, and the State Board of Accounts was the one that was fussing, but they finally did relent and said, you can justify, and kind of just what you said, we were spending other monies to kind of show that we're shouldering the whole burden. That there was questions about that at one time, but that was just them. I don't think it wasn't a state statute.
Any other
questions?
No, that's it.
Comments? Good. You're doing a great job with dealing with all those grants. I don't know how you do that. I mean, that looks like a one big.
Well, I can tell you for the whole group, COVID, Chris certainly there as well. We went through that COVID stuff. Obviously, it was all brand new to everybody. We just had to get together and work, and this group, they did amazing job. Amazing job. It's ongoing. He still does okay for an old military guy. He does all right.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it.
And I'm serious about the old military thing. You guys have been in the military, you know that when the supervisor says jump, you jump. You don't ask questions.
That's right.
You do what
You do it.
That's not the way it is in public life, as we all know.
Come on in. I was just getting ready to send out the search party.
Absolutely.
Hello. Well, I know down there, what do you want to tell us? That's fit for public, that's fit for the public.
That's fit for public, yes.
We're muddling along. I guess I can share it. She has sent it to the board. The nurse has tendered her resignation. She's going to give us the next 2 weeks and continue to work at the vaccine and testing site, and then the last 2 weeks will be in the office. So there's that. And festival is certainly on its way, and I probably had about 45 to 50 applications at the beginning of the week, because everybody was waiting to see if it was going to go forward. So I'll have about 300 more or so this month. Janet's doing a wonderful job. We'll finally hit the nail on the head with this one.
She would always work hard. I had her back on.
I think before the next nurse comes, we probably need to clarify the status of whether it is an exempt position. It always has been, but apparently that wasn't conveyed to Tanya. So
At what position, I'm sorry?
an exempt. So basically, I think that's salary.
Salary instead of hourly.
And doesn't necessarily accumulate a lot of extra time.
Well, it wasn't Tanya that started that, it was her predecessor that started that.
Well, I know even when Kevin was here, because I didn't even know what it meant, and she said she was an exempt employee.
Well, her predecessor's the one that racked up the mountain of comp time that we had to pay out all the time. So,
Tanya had
we have a commissioner here, so.
hasn't had nearly that much.
We have found so many gaps in our different places. As you know, I mean, even with the highway department, superintendent should not be getting comp time. But how many hours was that accumulated over the years just allowed to go there? I mean, until the issue comes up, nobody's going to be aware of it until it's there. So.
Well, a lot of that, in fairness to him, most of that, or a lot of that was accumulated before he ever became that position. It's a long time he's been there.
He just doesn't miss work. He's just there all the time. So,
so I mean,
we just need to clarify all that.
I don't think there's much accumulation going on now, if any.
No, there's not. I agree. Yep, and that's the only way you fix it. Once you become aware of it, but sometimes you got messes like Henry found. You got messes you gotta take care of, and then move on.
Any questions for?
Pretty much true.
Other questions? Okay, well, we'll work on it.
So will we.
See you more.
Do your best.
Thanks, ladies.
Come on up.
Come on in.
Hi, Julie.
Good morning.
She's been fighting the cold, so she may not be too noisy today. We'll see.
That went away like, I don't know, when I started screaming a couple days ago. I don't know.
Okay.
I found my voice anyway.
Okay.
I think for the most part I kept my budget the same. There were a couple of lines and I don't remember where they're at. Our contracts line It's probably going to go up minimally every year, and that's because it's based on billing for the Acumed that we have. That it's 6% that they charge us to do our billing. I talked 3 years ago, I think now, when we hired Acumed about it was a 5-year contract, and then we were going to go back and reassess and probably bring our billing back in-house. I've talked to several services and they say don't do that, don't. So they're changing the Medicare so much, and hopefully Medicaid coming in soon, and it doesn't cover our costs to constantly update our people and try to get that reimbursement back. And they say that reimbursements will drop drastically. So we've got 2 years left. I'm going to keep looking into that and see. Services of our size, I don't think that it's going to be a good idea, no matter what.
I suppose I could do the math, but you can probably just tell me roughly how much you pay for Acumen to do that.
It's anywhere between $25,000 and $30,000. Yeah, $2,500 and $3,000 a month is average for us. So $36,000 a year on average, but given our run volume,
no, I understand.
Our reimbursement has gone up significantly. So the only problem is if we're in a good place right now, but our run volume has increased so much that if we continue that, if that's our new normal, we'll probably be looking at a higher reimbursement because they're billing a lot more runs. So we were set for 1,500 runs a year. And on average, we were only doing 1,250 to 1,300. So that gave us a good amount of leeway, but 211 activations in the month of July puts us well over double what we're able to carry there.
Well, somewhat my point with that is that you said it's maybe something you really don't want to do anyway, but by the time you end up staffing up for that, which frankly, at your run volume, you probably don't have to do. You'll eat that up right there.
We'll eat it significantly, and it's what I thought was only going to be $3,000 or $4,000 to get the correct credentialing, to get the office staff trained to do the internal billing, is more like $12,000 and then $3,000 a year to maintain. So that's well beyond what I ever assumed it would be anywhere close to.
Well, you basically got an employee for $36,000 a year with the billing service, but you don't have to train, keep up, they just do it.
Yeah.
All the updates and changes.
Yeah, well, it's a bargain.
And I will say, having Heather and Mary, because they're not perfect, they're used to billing for major, they bill for Detroit City. They bill for major companies, so, and they're nationwide. So some of our Indiana laws, maybe they're not privy to or they don't understand completely. So those two girls keep on top of them. Our reimbursement rate is really high compared to some of the other companies because they are constant every day. They're calling them and saying, hey, we've got this person, you charge this amount, this isn't right. And so that's why a lot of our reimbursements have come in much higher.
Do a good job.
Almost everything else I kept the same, and I think I documented in all of my budget lines. Most of them I've duplicated in public safety and the general fund because we trade those back and forth from year to year. So it might look like an increase in those lines as a request, but it's only because it's duplication.
Yeah, and the forms that you all have, and that's what you see. If you look at her, what she sent in as her justification, it's much more clear. At this point, what is baked in there is I don't think I moved anything from a fund that wasn't in this year, which is very abnormal. But if it was in public safety this year, when it comes to ambulance service, at least it's there again. Or if it was in CCD, it's there again. Or in general fund, it's there again.
CCD, generally, we only use
you only got a couple
capital outlays and the building maintenance, so the only two.
Do you want to talk about the status of the remount? Because in the Riverboat Fund, which is in your book somewhere, I assume, is the $87,000 for the ambulance remount. Whichever one it is, med whatever.
It's med 2. No, med 1, sorry. talked about that. When was that? May?
June, probably.
When I came
May,
in.
June.
That ambulance is having a lot of issues. The rear end is going out. And
Boo.
You'll understand it much more than me, I'm sure. So, the rear end is going out, and in order for us to fix it, it's differential.
Differential.
Yep. Okay. That and all 4 ball joints, front and back. I can't remember. There was a whole lot on the back that's going bad. That's what I remember.
What year is this?
It is a 2014, so 7 years old. But what happened? Oh, the springs. So on those trucks, when they do them, this is one that we bought as a whole unit. It had already been remounted. We bought it used from, I can't remember, up north, around Indy. But when we got it, they didn't put the heavy duty springs on it when they remounted it. And so it's an E450 chassis, but it has the regular springs on the back, and that box bounces back and forth, and it's just absolutely destroyed everything in the undercarriage. In order for us to get that fixed, I got 3 quotes. They were all well above $10,000.
I don't doubt that.
So it's an older truck. It's actually our next one that's up to be remounted. We'll be 2 years next year since our last remount. And so I was hoping that would be the way that we could go on that one, because it's not going to last. The box is still in great condition. The outside, the exterior of the box doesn't actually need any body work on it at all. The interior, they would only do, this is one that we had all the wiring redone in it. So there's no wiring that has to be done. There's minor maintenance that they're required to do, which is checking and upgrading all the seat belts and safety equipment, double checking the oxygen systems and things that the state requires of a remount. But the oxygen system was actually redone too, so that should still be in certification for another, I think, 4 years. So that was a request that we put in after the budgets were due to get that remounted.
And so and you don't want it to go until after the festival then, is that right?
Correct.
Is that right?
Well,
If it lasts that
You
long.
may not have any choice.
it's right now it's our last truck out, and it's doing okay, but we've had 4 trucks on the road at least 2 days a week. So it's doing okay, it's maintaining, but we're trying to keep it as the very last option to go out of the bay. I think it'll last that long. Tilton, what is that, Burke Springs said they think it'll last that long as we're careful on it. Our mileage has actually been about the same, but we were at 80% of our runs going to Terre Haute. Now we're at 80% going to Clinton, which is nice, but our run volume's doubled, so the miles are still there, unfortunately. So I think we'll be okay on it until then, but they can't get the chassis. We requested the chassis in June, and they told us November, and then they told us February, and now they're saying it might be well after May before they can even get the chassis in for it. So
None of those are good options.
that's why I said I don't want to talk about it.
Where do you get
Well,
your chassis?
that's why when we talked about this, and the reason I brought it up is to get it out there, because the riverboat's not one you think about looking at when she would be in here. Is the lead time on anything automotive obviously is forever right now. So with the issues this thing's having, it may not, hopefully we're sitting here saying hopefully it'll make it through the festival. So we put this request in, told her to get the ball rolling, so that you basically get the name on the list. This is also 4-wheel drive.
Yes,
It'll be
it
the
is
only one that's a 4-wheel
truck
drive.
chassis, 4-wheel drive truck chassis, which was only $1,500 more than the E450 van chassis.
Right.
So you're going to F model rather than E model.
Yeah, and so I've talked to 4 different companies that run the truck chassis, and their maintenance budget has gone down significantly. The DEF system has been fixed for emergency vehicles, which is nice. That's one of the reasons I never even would consider them before. So it's we can't afford the maintenance and upkeep on something that still has a bunch of bugs that need to be worked out. So it wasn't going to be an option for us. But now Glenn from Terre Haute is absolutely in love. He says that their maintenance budget has nearly been cut in half by running truck chassis. It's cheaper to have, the labor is cheaper because it's half the time for them to get to the parts to change them.
The E-bodies are a nightmare to work on.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Way to change a headlight this morning. That requires taking out about half of the engine to change a headlight. They're ridiculous. They really are. To answer your question, so we actually order through the company that does our remounts, but they order through Ford directly.
Okay.
Because
You answered my question.
it has to be an emergency service package on it, and it has to have a certain package for the ambulance. So, like the police department, they have a certain engine package and things that have to come, so it comes direct from Ford. And we're on their list.
Yeah. Well,
And
hopefully,
they keep pushing us
you know,
back.
we'll be surprised and they'll get it a little quicker. I'll hold my breath about that.
Yeah, that'd be amazing if it happened.
Well, anything else?
I think so. I tried to keep it really, really basic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Another
You too.
commissioner hire, by the way, in case you didn't realize that.
I'll give you credit for that one, Jim. I'm not giving you the other one.
Items on the protocol today?
That's supposed to be on the, anyway, if you can see it. The sheriff will probably be on there.
Fine. I know that they wrote that back in 2019. Anything else from that?
We'll take Kurt's on that.
Kurt's supposed to be on it anyway. She's got to go. She's got to go.
Well, she's not.
Well, she says she's at heart. She's not wanting to do that anymore.
It's crucial. He's just going to roll.
She's the one that set down.
Well, we're at the 8 of the check. Three.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Then we fund that for position.
You do? You're paying for the third one.
What the hell they got from that third position?
Well, they're dividing it out, but you know, they're paying to go for all the benefits instead of just paying a flat.
$2,500 fine for each of them. If they don't do it in 90 days, it goes back $2,500.
Yeah, for
Back to 2019.
Yes, because bigger and terrible. I went up there to buy them today. So I'm gonna have to.
They're doing the same thing. Really? Wow. He said they'll put one on the property.
Whatever.
John likes her.
Good.
Which one's that?
Donuts. I've never had donuts. I never had donuts. That's pretty tasty. Yeah.
Yeah, she changed that.
Yeah.
My sword stick.
Kurt Lanzone's on his way. I thought maybe we might wait for him because he would be brief, and then I'll get right to you guys if you don't mind. If he doesn't show here in a minute, because I know you'll have more to say, because he will surely be brief, I think. So, if you don't, if you don't mind. Well, I text you. Did you get my text?
I don't know.
I text you and said, hurry up. We're about ready to go to lunch.
Get to the point.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
That's right.
I plan on being brief anyways.
Well, yeah, you never have to worry about you going on too long.
So I think you give me a half hour, but I don't think to leave it. But
That's what it says about me all the time, too.
Lord knows,
Nobody says
Lord knows I can't give you a half an hour.
Ooh, man. No good.
Once he opens up, you
I can do that. I even have a weapon.
Oh.
Am I allowed to have a weapon?
Just spoil your lunch.
Yeah.
Shit. Look at him. You think
Commissioner's buying too.
Commissioner's budget, we take lunch out of it.
Works for me. If I wouldn't be in town, I can tell you that. We'll be
Too
going.
expensive.
No, we'll be going somewhere else.
Can you take us to Mecca?
Do you want a tenderloin?
Haven't had tenderloin in a while.
That's a pretty good thing from here. Pass that down.
Larry, you need about 6 or 8 of them.
That's all right.
I didn't necessarily want them. I just suggested you open them.
Well, this devil fall out and you'll need them.
No, that's not working. I'm not eating any because I'm getting enough.
Not enough for right now.
Harold, you.
Make it
Go ahead,
warm.
Jim. Dive down over there.
Are you trying to give him a sugar cone?
That's what we're trying to do.
Probably stuck the donuts.
That's right.
Too many comments.
Ambulance director already left.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got sheriff, he got a gun, we can shoot him if we have to.
Shoot him pretty well with misery.
That's right.
There you are. Hi there. Have a seat.
You got 30 seconds.
I'm not asking for much.
Well, good.
Could you take your hat off, please?
I'll get off.
And you
Where you leave that
You want me to take the bag off too?
You look good with it on. Keep it on.
My hair's a mess, so good thing I don't get paid for my hair, right?
You know, it took some people a long time to realize that the courthouse was black and gold on top. It took them a long time to realize that's what that was. You probably hadn't thought about that. Have you?
Yes, I have. I'm closer to Lafayette than Bloomington, so. Really, the only increase we asked for was salaries and contractual services, I believe. You get me and substitute Christie in case didn't know. The only other thing that I've got is on Form 144, the director should be slashed and the A&R agent should be put in place. Because I'm not the director. You could put the director next to That's just a formality in our system, but they're talking about 1107 director should be
A&R
agent. And actually, now with Purdue stuff, we're all cross-trained to be county extension directors, so that's why I'm here.
I won't ask you if you can do the home agent job.
I'm not inclined. Along those lines, we were up on 4-H enrollment about 5% this past year, so.
What's that number? What's that number?
5% at 689.
That's great.
689 youth.
Yep.
I don't know how we rank in the state, but it's always been high. It's been 600 for a long time, so it's great to see numbers going up. You know where we are in the state rank numbers?
I don't have that information.
We're the third, you got, they got the home agent, that's the one we fund, right? County funds that third position. I know when you guys ask for money, you always break it down three equal parts, but actually the county funds the third one. It goes way back before your time.
I'm not familiar with that, I guess.
But that third position is half home agent and half 4-H, right?
They switched that to where it's total.
The county didn't switch.
Okay.
And you can tell Julie that I said so.
Okay.
She'll know where it came from.
Okay.
Yeah, so we should have been informed of that decision, number one.
Okay.
That's the extension board's job, and that's the director's job out there to inform us of that.
Okay.
And that is not the deal that we had with Purdue or Miss Hart, and that needs to be reversed quickly.
Okay.
We don't really want another letter meeting with Henderson have to come down here.
Okay.
And that's nothing on you, Kurt.
Yeah, I know.
That's
It's
fine.
not you. It's not you. But you know, they need to stop doing stuff like that because that's what got them into trouble before.
And that's the 1109 line.
The home agent lines that you're talking about.
Yeah. That is
That's 1109.
That's a half agent and half 4-H, and that was the way it was originally agreed. And that's the way it's funded.
Okay.
So you can inform her that she got caught with her hand in the cookie jar.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Kurt.
Sign that Butler, will you?
Yeah. Oh, she knows.
No, but I mean, and again, this is not you, but she has a hard time understanding down there in Terre Haute that this is a partnership. And we can start calling again like we had to a few years ago if she doesn't get the message that now it's partnership, and when partnership means we communicate and we just don't make changes without.
Okay.
She needs to be, you need to well communicate that to her, or she can appear and we can explain it to her herself.
Oh, I got.
But again, not you, but you just have to communicate that to the higher ups. I'm sure they'll be glad.
That doesn't much you, you're just a messenger. I'm good.
Anything else? I think everything else is good. I think a good fair. I mean, it seemed like it turned out well for all of what we have to go through with the COVID and all that. But
And weather this year.
oh yeah, the monsoon season.
The fair flood of 2021.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen that much water in my lifetime on the fairgrounds. While there was an activity going. I mean, I've seen it when it's been bad, but
A lot of times you get one big rain or something during the fair.
There's Thursday night.
And
correct.
Thursday night it always rains.
Yeah.
Your wage strike force coming Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay. You should all work that out to everybody. Good.
Yep, the gals in the office are aware, so.
Great.
okay, anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Kurt.
Have a good day. Hey, yeah, get that. Show him that hat again.
I'll order him one.
I'll pay for it.
Yeah, that's crap that they're changing that, and they wouldn't do that, damn. Sheriff, you're on?
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
As always, it just seems worse now than it is worse now. We're always fighting retention to everything, dispatchers, jailers. Deputies, not so much, but when we do have an opening, it seems like we kind of struggle to get several good candidates. Violent encounters are occurring more often than they have before. Police pursuits are way up. That just goes with the current climate, I think, everywhere.
Culture right now.
Yeah. We had a fatal police shooting 3.5 weeks ago where 2 deputies were ambushed. One of them was injured. It's getting dangerous. The officer that was involved in the shooting sounds like he's wanting to come back. He just hasn't yet. He's still on some time off. But, you know, long term, I don't know if he's going to stay or not. I hope that he does. But if not, then I don't know if we even have anybody apply for the job. If we do, I have no idea who. I don't know of any candidates. And that's the first time in a long time that I haven't known of somebody interested in applying. So I think there was 3 things that I put in my budget justification letter for raises. But raises was one of them. It's just, I think we got to be more attractive to new hires. Try to get people to come in, and then also take care of the people we have. Just, it's hard to get new people in, but the ones that we've had here for a long time, if they leave, it's even harder to replace them, all the experience. I know money's hard to find, hard to come by. I think the other 2 increases that I'd asked for were vehicle maintenance. A lot of that is the fuel costs. The 2 cars that we had shot up, their insurance deductible's $1,000 every time we hit a deer or anything happens. Of course, the insurance said that they don't think that they can come back on the property owner because the suspect didn't actually live there. So the $2,000 I think is going to come out of my budget. See, you never know how many deer, whatever's going to happen. So that always takes a big whack out of us. So I did put an increase for that. The gas was also another justification for that.
Are they back to being drivable yet? Or?
One of them is, and the other one is just going to order new body panels instead of trying to. I think one of them was hit 12 times. So he said instead of trying to weld it and going down rough roads or whatever, you're going to pop them out or lose them. So, and I don't remember what the estimate was. Around $10,000 on one, I think 5 on the other. So, and they were both a couple of years old. The cars were so. But, well, one of them was a year old, I think, so. But he's just concerned on how long it'll take to get the body panels for the Tahoe. So
just to get them, just to be able to get them in.
And we've got 2 Tahoes. One of them was built last week. One of them will be built this week. And what he said was the chips are what he's waiting on. That's what the holdup is.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
The problem is with all of it, isn't it?
Yeah. So hopefully, the body panels don't take too long to. We've got a few extra cars that we didn't get rid of, so, and that's why, is to have some spare cars.
Spare.
So, the other one was a medical contract. Of course, that goes up every year, every couple of years. So that's why I'd ask for more money in that. And that's just kind of a crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen year after year with inmates. And it seems like it gets worse, all the medical claims that we have. But the program we're in does definitely help a lot. And they started that a few years ago, so. And then, of course, we're going to try to buy 2 cars for next year at a commissary. 1.5 of the cars this year will be at a commissary. And then we still actively pursue grants when we can for needed items that, you know, we're really trying to get budget money for us, for county money to cover.
We didn't bring it up to him while he was here, but I had Roy look it up. The prosecutor has 129,000 misdemeanor, so maybe or no, done a diversion. Excuse me, a diversion. You might, you know, once in a while he's willing to help with a vehicle. You might hit him up with that for something out of that.
Kick him a few times.
Well, yeah. The last few years, we've been like 2 cars, 2 cars, 2 cars. We seem to be getting by with that. And we've got pretty new cars. So we could potentially be, which I mean, I'll be gone. In 2022, we'll be trading Tahoes in. So if you get 2, one of them's free. But I mean, you could potentially be self-reliant if you ever sheriff wanted to use commissary. Or give a prosecutor if he's willing to share that.
Well, see, what you need to do, you need to work that down to almost nothing. So when the new sheriff gets in, then they have to deal with it, right? Believe me, others have done that. I sat here and seen
Oh yeah, yeah. So potentially you could get there, you know, as long as things stay the same. So, and I know everybody's building new jails around us, but the other option still out there, it's still available. I know you guys had said no before. But the housing of federal inmates, that's still an option if it comes to that down the road. They do pay a lot better than DOC or county inmates, so we've talked to a couple of sheriffs that have done that.
Well, I think there are some concerns about, you know, who we would get and that sort of thing, that we don't want to start having gang fights out there.
No, you don't want gang fights out there.
If we could be a little bit more sure of who we're getting, that.
Yeah, they're not gonna.
I don't know, with the COVID now, you probably don't really want that going on anyway.
At this point, you really
so,
don't, right?
But there were some concerns when we discussed that whether or not well, you may not have been here. Jim, you remember that we talked about
Yeah,
that?
and I wasn't sure if we had a choice. Do we have a choice?
I don't
go federal, state, or can the state require you to take them first?
No, we don't have to.
You don't have to do the state. Most people do, but
There was talk about requiring the state to be exhausted first, and then the feds could only be on excess, but that didn't. I don't think that happened. But
not that I've ever heard of.
That came to the commissioners.
Well, was there some issues about the transport too? Because the feds wouldn't want to transport them or something.
Yeah, they would.
And we had to deal
They
with
would either be under the Terre Haute or Indianapolis, like Port Authority.
Yeah.
So if they had a court hearing, because they would all be pre-trial. So if they had a court hearing, we'd have to take them. The marshals would set the hearing, but they would be ours to take to and bring back.
And then you might somebody
I remember that.
And then a short term.
It wasn't near as good a deal as what once you looked at it.
The short-term hospital visits too, it would be our job to get them to the hospital.
That's right. You know, send people all over the world with these.
I remember the state's concern on that when they were trying to get legislation passed to require that empty beds be occupied by state DOC rather than opportunity feds was the state pays less, and they were afraid it would drive the cost up. They had to compete with the feds on bed space, on cell space. But it must not have gone through.
Okay, got it.
But anyway, that's, like I said, that's still an option that they're offering people, so I just wanted to throw it out there.
Typically, how many beds do we have available for someone else to use?
We're running, on average, about 20. We try not to fill all those up just in case something happens. Something big happens, we drag 10 people in. We don't want to. But we could also be overcrowded as long as it doesn't last, for months or a year or whatever, and then that's when you get into your lawsuits. But usually we have at least 10 to 15 beds that we can farm out to somebody. So.
Sheriff, as a former superintendent, I used to, for salaries, study Vermilion, Fountain, Clay, not Vigo County, but for my staff and all employees, where would we rank with those other organizations today?
Still behind. They're all in the 40s starting out. What I'd requested $4,000 per deputy and then 3 for dispatchers, 3 for jailers, but it would still put us behind any surrounding county.
So we're less, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Fountain County pays their jail officers starting out what we pay our deputies.
So deputies are 37.5 currently, and most areas around us are around 42, 43. If you go to Montgomery County, I think they're at 55. Crawfordsville is 52 or something. But so when I put in $4,000 for the deputies, that's going to put them around 41.7, I think. So still below, but it's still closer than where.
Close enough they won't run to the other county and leave.
Yeah, hopefully not. And then, yeah, the veteran officers, I mean, half our department is all about the same age, and then the other half are kind of mixed. And you know, they may be different ages, but they've got kind of about the same years of service on. So half the department, I mean, as long, which the incentives greatly help, the extra things greatly help. So hopefully half the guys won't go anywhere to start fresh to make the same money or close to the same money, but they'd be working nights, no rank, no. So, but yeah, even if the raises were approved, we would still be last, but it would just get us kind of in the range. So.
Other questions for the sheriff?
How many people are you short now?
Jailers 1, and then a dispatcher just put in. He'll be retired at the end of the year. So, but as of right now, just one jail officer.
Your retention efforts are pretty well crap all the way across, right?
Yeah, and jailer, I mean, it's seems every week or 2 weeks we're always short a jailer. I mean, it's just.
Do they go someplace else or just quit doing something?
They go somewhere else, but I mean, it's not all of them, but there's a good majority or.
Same job someplace else.
Yeah, or they're not cut out for the job either. We're not hiring as good a quality as we used to. So.
The pool's not there.
When the state pays $19 an hour
For highway work. Yeah.
for a prison
Well,
worker.
I'm talking about, they pay that just for highway work, coming off the street with no experience, $19 an hour.
Well, we used to compete with prison. Originally, we paid more than a prison across the street. And then slowly they started catching up. And then he worked out there. But I mean, the last few years, they gave big bumps. And now they're way over what we pay. So yeah, we do not, get to compete with prison or even get any experienced people from there.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Appreciate you coming by.
Saw a report yesterday, they don't expect the employment thing where people just don't want to work to change for 3 years. They can
Oh boy. I do too.
Stop giving out
They don't
stimulus
expect
checks.
this report, they don't
Stop
expect
giving out stimulus
people
checks.
just won't go out and work because all these jobs are open, nobody fills out, they expect them to last about 3 years.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Careful, guys.
Make sure I text on that tower, that's how you can make it better. Let's go. See ya.
This will be
Yeah.
Laura, just go ahead and get to you.
As far as the auditor's budget and the salaries, there's just a regular increase on that. I would suggest to take the plat assistant out of the plat book, put it back into the auditor's general fund. You took back the revenues in the plat book, average around 16,000. 16,000 plus another 22,000. So far, So right now, the miscellaneous revenues in the plat office from January to August is $12,850 that we collected. Last year we collected $15,700. That was in the fees. And then the miscellaneous revenue, last year we collected $22,457.90. So I would suggest to take the cloud assistant and move it back to the county general. Due to the expenses coming out, I'll talk about that in a minute. I have requested the service contracts to go to a $4,000 data pit stop. This data pit stop, $4,000, would be for Darren to come in and do our book stuff.
Is that the one where you need him to figure the tax bills and that sort of thing?
Well,
People
it's
come
not
in.
figuring the tax bills, it's more, I can't think of the word, John. The records where that the state board of accounts want the assessment for the inventories.
Talking about the infrastructure inventory.
Yeah. That's the main.
So is that being kept up now?
Huh?
Is that being kept up now?
It is, it's sort of a way, but not very good. So in his, and he does the other counties and it'll be all in one.
So if he's $4,000, where's the other 20 in this service contracts line for?
The other 20, I just estimated it because at that time I didn't have the Harris one. The Harris is at $16,000. What I want to do with that Harris one is to do a payroll, do the payroll electronically, so you would have, instead of right now everybody does their individual payroll vouchers, the payroll vouchers would be done electronically. And I believe that $60,000 would be to get us started, and then after that is like $700 a year, I believe it is. For that contract. Because the annual maintenance is $14,900 would be to the software license, hosting service, and the professional service for a one-time fee.
What's that again? Sorry.
Here, let me hand you that paper so you can see it more. It's also in your books.
All right, so $16,000 roughly. Yeah.
So actually, 20 would go by with $20,000. And moving over to the plat book. Everything's about the same, also for the service contracts at $18,000. This $18,000, the service contract that count the WTH annual hosting service is $3,600 a year. There's $6,000 a year for WTH parts splits. And our SBC portal is at $600 a month. At 12 months brings it to $7,200. Our rapid reproduction is $65 a month, so that would be about $780. The grand total is $17,580.
$17,500 or something.
Correct. $17,580. And our SBC portal, that is in the transfer books and keeping all that up to date. And that also includes that electronic filing cabinet, so we can go paperless. So then that way we don't have everything stored in the attic. And with the SBC portal, it is cloud-based. It's not like the clerk's office. The clerk's office is on the server. And Randy had mentioned eventually the server will be running out of space on that. So when I talked to Randy about this SBC portal thing, since it would serve that everything's taken on the cloud, that would make our space available better too for the county. For all our electronic filing cabinets. Because I'd like to go paperless. Any other questions?
I would like for you to implement, I would like that rundown of contracts and plat book again.
The rundown on the platform,
The plat book, service contract one.
$3,600 for the annual hosting service.
To who? Sorry.
It's $3,600 for the annual hosting service. It's $6,000 for the partial split. $7,200 for the SBC portal. Rapid reproductions is $780.
Okay. That's it?
That is it, $17,580.
So I take it that copier that we put in last year, the year before, is now just in with the regular contract of all the rest of them? Because that was.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Any questions for Laura? Okay. Jim, do you want to say, we kind of touched on the health insurance, obviously. Is there anything else commissioner-wise in particular you want to talk about, or?
Oh, just, we're in the process of seeing what options we have. We will have a couple options. One I didn't mention was we are still looking at, and I'll be getting numbers from that here after we get our new numbers in September. IPEP, the Indiana Public Employees Program, is always a possibility, getting the state program. States never handled that very well up until the last year. They always demanded, they would make the offer like this time of year, and you were supposed to have all the numbers ready for them within 2 or 3 weeks, and they'll decide to take it or not. That may be an option. I have to look at their way of seeing what their plan is. We've not really been any interest in that, but we may have interest in it now, so we're going to look at that as well. And that's one of the things that this other company that I've been talking with is part of as well. So we may have 3 options by the time we come renewal time. We'll see. Laura and I are meeting.
Well, I would certainly talk to your commissioner friend over there. Can't think of his name. Yoakum, and see what they are, how they're doing this. I mean,
Yeah,
certainly ask him about the plan and see what he says.
We can do that.
Okay. Well, I think what we're going to do is we'll break for lunch.
Buddy, I'm looking.
Okay, we're going to get back going here. Randy, if you want to go, just stay right there if you want.
Okay. Well, the increases in our budget, which is salary, if we increase it to $1 for everybody. And the restricted fund, stone and gravel, you had $180,000, I think, right this year. Right up to $200,000, it's not everybody now. And then in restricted fund and equipment, we're going to have to up the lease money for the graders and the excavators. That should go up to $195,000 $941.57.
Don't lose that number, because I'm not down there yet.
Okay, so
No, you're good. I just want to make sure we get that number in there, because I haven't recalculated. Mention restricted, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and it needs to be what?
195,000.
Yeah, we're not gonna make that.
941.57.
Okay, we're going to either have to zero something and appropriate it in January, or add more to, or appropriate that in January, because we didn't advertise that lineup. That's all obviously after we had put all this together, so.
But I just want to make you aware of it.
No, I appreciate that. I think what we do with that, it's all right if everybody is the difference from the 152.2 that you submitted in the beginning, 152,200. Submit that difference in January as an additional.
The difference between that 152 and the one.
That, or we zero something like culverts and put it in there and then appropriate that. I don't care which way we do it, but.
Yeah, we did it for last year, we did it for 85.
I had 152.2 last year and this year. That's what's on here. That's the number 10 there right now, so.
Okay. And the red sign, the secret, what you want to call it, I did add a line in there. $250,000 for equipment. We need to get a new dump truck, and we need to get a used pickup. We lost it a while back.
I don't have that in here, Randy.
This is in the seat that you say?
Yeah.
Well, we have called it now, I guess.
Yeah.
We did equipment this year, in the current budget right now, 259, 249 was the budget. We had a request for bituminous at 250. So does that need to be moved to equipment?
You go down here, equipment.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Go down here.
It's like two different ones.
Yeah.
That's not what you show.
Yeah, there's 250 in bituminous and 250 in equipment.
The 250 there, the 250.
Okay. It's getting up there, ain't it? There's another 250 or
hot copy of the.
Yeah, I've got
What I
both
turned
of them
into.
out now. I just put
Oh, you just put it
yeah,
in?
I just put the highway one in there. It is on there.
Okay, go ahead, we got it straightened out.
Okay. That's for a new dump truck and a used pickup. And I believe that's all the increases that we got. And just for your information, I had a culvert failed on us, you know, 650 north, between 1050 east and county line, the Denver county line. When I was replacing it, I got an order. And I asked for 4 months. This year.
Okay.
It should be here in 2 weeks. And luckily, they had one on the yard, they just gotta take it and get it spliced. And it is a D-shaped pipe.
How's your health situation overall?
It's increased.
Oh, it has?
Yeah, we got better. I think by the end of this month, I'll only be 1 short, but next month I might be 1 or 2 short. John's gonna retire. And Randy Haga, I don't know if he's gonna come back or not. He's got a dog that's running next. Well, he can eat the lot quite a ways past his medical leave. He does have a lot of knowledge. So I'll talk to him and see.
Has he been there a long time, Randy?
No, not real long. A year maybe, a year and a half. Okay, well.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're able to find some people.
Yeah.
So.
I've got 2 coming last this month.
Are we cutting any brush yet, or are we running
Not
brush?
yet, not yet, I'm not. We'll be done paving probably Tuesday, or not with Tuesday, Wednesday. We're off Monday, they're on that. About 2 days up on Henley Road. Then we'll get back to cutting brush.
Get back to trying to get some feet back.
Then we'll look and seal Henley Road. We should be done. Yeah, bridge routes are all mowed, and some other roads.
The graders are, got 4 grader operators, and the graders are.
They're running.
Got my road all graded, the brush cut and everything, man. You know, moved to Liberty Township.
Yeah.
You managed to pull some of that away from Howard?
Yeah.
We'll have to put a stop to that.
Yeah, can't have that happen again.
Nah, we get your grader up there again, there's gonna be problems.
Yeah.
I saw him sitting in Marshall the other day, on one of my trips through
I
there.
was grading yesterday.
Well, this was after hours, he was just.
Up there by Roy's house, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Roy's got paid. He's paid.
Is he paid?
Oh, yeah, he's all paid.
Yeah.
He took care of it.
Gee whiz.
2 or 3 times they
Yeah.
They're just grading driveways. They're
I'll run it.
Oh, that's what, we don't need to start that. Let's not start that. They used to do that in the old days. Boy, Victor.
When I first got elected, I really wished I could have afforded to pave my driveway. I wish I could, but I couldn't. But I'm thinking that'd be a good way to stir it up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That'd be
Found out why none of this made any sense. I'm sorry, I had the wrong sheet open.
Okay.
So, could you tell me that number for the equipment rental again?
Yeah, 195, 941, 57.
942. Make it by less, about $500. You'll make it by $500, so you may have to do the additional intro.
Okay. All right.
Do you have anything else for Randy or other questions or anything else?
When do we hear community crossings? Is that October?
I think it's the end of October.
Okay. Anxious to see what makes
I'm
sense.
getting something about that too.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know if you made a list, but. Any other questions for Randy?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out a little early. Thank you, Jeannie.
Still have LCC in
Well, I know, we might as well deal with some of these issues while we're waiting on them, sooner and deal with all of them sooner and get out of here.
We're not an issue.
Be careful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, well, I'll just do some of that. I'll do something easy. If you recall, solid waste is asking for a raise. We were able to determine they have $800,000 sitting in their bank account. For the life of me, I can't understand why that they think that they need a raise. We did invite Jane today, and she was busy. She was out of town, I believe, and then maybe we'd ask her one other time, and I don't think that worked out either. But regardless, I see no reason to grant them any kind of a raise from what we've been doing. I mean, if any of these other people came in here and had an $800,000 balance, and you wanted to raise the amount, we'd be laughed clear out of you.
Yep, I would agree. Our agreement was a few years ago to spend that down before they got any increases, so I don't know why they got back to asking for an increase. I don't know.
It really makes me wonder, and I don't know, maybe Jim or you talk to these other counties, but you know, we started out with eight or nine counties in that solid waste district, and then slowly over the years they've
Done their own is what they've
done their own.
Yeah,
I
Montgomery
know.
County
I
is too.
remember I talked to Hendricks myself, and when Hendricks was in it, Hendricks was like, "Well, we're paying for all the rest of you. We're going to do it ourselves." And the bigger counties, that's probably right.
Montgomery
So,
County
but
same
they've
thing.
all kept flaking off, and now we're down to 2.
Mhm.
I don't know what Remain's doing. I think they did it
They do their own.
themselves.
I don't know.
It really makes me wonder, quite honestly, what I would do. I would draw that balance down as much as we can over there, and then
Well, that makes sense to me.
jump out of that thing. If we jump out now,
We'll lose
why you're going to
we'll
lose a
money.
big bunch
Yeah.
of money. And I about had it with them asking for
Yeah, I don't know that we ever wanted-
raises, and when they have all that money sitting there.
That'd be a whole discussion on jumping out or not. We're gonna have to do something
Well,
with it, because if we don't,
I'm not suggesting we do that today.
it's gonna end up in our ditches someplace. So we'll have to figure that out.
Well,
But-
we would have to still do something. We're
Yeah.
required to do something.
But I don't know why they don't spend that down, because I thought we had that agreement really several years ago that they were gonna spend that down when it came up. Montgomery County was still in it at the time, and it was well over $1 million in they had, and so the
And
agreement
it
was they
has
were gonna
been
spend that
spent down
down.
a little bit, but I don't think we're there yet.
Probably need to see those numbers, what it is, and why they're asking now.
But
I can see them needing to keep some contingency. I mean, they could lose a truck or two,
Well,
I
I
mean, who
could-
knows, but 800,000.
well, that's a contract. I mean, they're
Yeah.
contracting that out, right? I mean, they don't own any equipment themselves, do they?
Not to my knowledge.
It's a contract.
Dan would be the one to know. He's on that board, not me, so I don't know the answer. to
Well,
this
we're
question.
deciding right now about the money. I mean, it's not.
Can't answer that for you. Don't have the info.
So my suggestion is we put it back to what it was in 21. So
Are they
decide one way.
Are they gonna come and talk to us?
What's that?
Is she gonna
I'm
come?
trying to get her to come here, and it just doesn't seem like it works out. We got to decide today because we got to get it in the book.
I'd say no.
So you want to go back to 2021, or do we need to go lower than that to get it?
No, I think
you
we'll just keep
get
it.
part of that other.
I would just keep it at the 2021.
That's
I don't
fine.
think we ought to clear it back without better information. But I see nothing wrong with just leaving it 2021.
Yeah, the increase for next year, and it's supposed to, the way that we discussed it was gonna be out till 2026. And a quarter per person a year
Per year, yeah.
until then, so.
$4,000 some dollars a year for the county, additional for the
Correct.
county.
Not till they spend it in every day.
So we need to make you're making a decision. Either what do you want to do?
Yeah.
That's fine.
2021.
2021, 2021.
Yep.
Okay.
Right?
Then
And that may bring her to the meeting.
Well, that might.
Might.
Again,
And definitely, if you cut it back, it'd bring her to the
Yeah,
meeting.
that's what I'm saying.
Sorry, but she sent some information, but I'm just not convinced about all of that. I don't see any. They're not supposed to run a savings account.
So
I will
we're
say
on
that
record.
our expenses are a lot less than what everybody else is paying statewide.
Really?
They're more than half, more than double what we're paying.
Really?
So most places are, $850 per person, and we're under 3. I think we're at $275 now.
And I think it actually was more a few years ago, and is less.
Yes.
So, well, we'll keep working on it, but for as for
That's all.
21, why? So, unless we change it, make sure that when they send the bill, that they don't bill us for more than what. If they bill us for more, you're not paying for that amount.
She'll surely come.
Because we'll not allow transfer or anything.
And then she wants a letter signed too, to go back to them.
Okay, fine. Well, that's, yeah, I mean,
I'll have that
fine.
one.
You just have to have that. So. I don't know. I think some of you or most of you, I don't know if all of you got this or not. The budget, or the veterans officer, he was unable to be here. He is asking the council to grant his clerical position full-time, part-time status, and increasing her hourly wage to $12.50, which we're not even going to touch that. Or does she already make $12.50?
No, she
makes
the
12.
the plain old part-time's 12. The regular part-time at this point is $12.50, subject to increase.
And that's not a veteran.
Any of those subject to any change.
This is
right?
the veterans we're talking. We're going to decide right now.
The 5 positions that we have, I think it's 5 that are regular part-time, permanent part-time, whatever you want to title that, are 50 cents higher than the part-time rate.
Well, I responded to him, indicated that I had part of a discussion, which he asked for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then he texted me and said that he was coming at 3 o'clock tomorrow.
We're canceling tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
Oh,
session.
okay, because that's fine.
We're canceling tomorrow.
Okay.
Can I add a comment to that? Is for the handbook, she would be considered as regular, part-time, full-time for the handbook.
Because of what?
This is the hours that she works.
Not me.
We had this position a few years ago, if you recall, and then we ended up going with that float business.
Right here.
But it was just
Temporary.
it was still just a
It was extra clerical or whatever.
just a clerical.
Clerical.
It was still
I
was
don't know
not
how-
regular part-time.
I don't know how we got it then to, but it's just not extra clerical myself. I mean, how is it now? Is it just extra clerical now?
She works 3 days a week. Every week,
Well,
Monday through Wednesday.
for what?
Monday through Wednesday, 7 hours per day. The only time she doesn't work is on Thursdays and Fridays. Because the veterans office closed Thursday and Friday.
Okay, so here's the question then. Elected officials and department heads must have prior approval of the Board of Commissioners to schedule a part-time employee more than 28 hours a week. At 28 hours a week, they become that. Has there ever been approval given to schedule a person more than 28 hours a week? And if it's 3 days, they're not 28 hours a week.
Yeah, we've never been asked. No.
So,
So you need to go to them.
But then how about the regular part-time who are regularly scheduled to work no more than 20 hours per week and have specific work schedules? She's got a specific work schedule.
I'll read the paragraph you're talking about. I have it up here too, so that everybody can hear what it says. Regular part-time employees are those who are not assigned to a temporary status and who are regularly scheduled to work a specific work schedule on a weekly basis, and who are eligible for Parke County's benefit package, subject to terms, conditions, and limitations of each benefit program. That's the regular part-time benefit status. Now, what page is that?
Page 6.
Where's the one about the hours? Part-time employees who average 30 hours per work per week or 130 hours in a month in the county's designated measurement period are also eligible for the county's benefit package. Regular part-time employees who are not assigned, that's what you just read that.
And work less than 20 hours.
No, this is different. This is two different versions. Employees are those who are not assigned to a temporary status, who are regularly scheduled to work no more than 28 hours per week and have a specific work schedule. Elected officials and department heads must have prior approval of the Board of Commissioners to schedule a part-time employee for more than 28 hours per week. While these employees are not eligible for the county's benefit package, they are eligible for workers' compensation and other legally mandated benefits. So the question here is, in my mind, is because we do have a different pay rate for these individuals, is whether or not this individual has been granted, or the department head has been granted the ability to work this person enough to get them to that status. And at this point, it sounds like the answer is no. And first, and if only working 3 days a week, you're not going to hit 28 hours.
I think it said they only need approval if they're going to work more than 28. Less than 28, they don't have to have our approval. They can hire her. So that's where she is. She's working less than 28. So that's why we've never seen it, because he didn't require our approval. So but she isn't regularly scheduled on our regular schedule, but it's less than 28. So he can do that without asking our approval to do it. So she should be entitled to the regular part-time, whatever that is.
$12 regular,
which is what she's getting.
Which is what she's getting.
Yeah.
The difference becomes is that the permanent part-time, regular part-time, whatever term you want to use for this, I've heard it a number of ways, is that the hourly rate is different, higher, and you get half the vacation time.
What's the criteria to qualify for the vacation time in the $12.50?
How it has been handled since I've been on this council is that we have appropriated that position, enough funding for that. In that, like when we would give salary increases and we gave a full-time, part-time rate, we always gave the part-time half of the full-time, and them identified positions got that. Where if Kim has somebody that works for a few, when they're at conference, we don't appropriate.
I guess my question is, who gets the $12.50 versus who gets the $12?
The regular part-time gets the $12.50. The plain old fill-in, the whole part-time.
So she should be getting $12.50 then instead of 12, but she's a regular part-time.
Not at this point. That position is not determined to be a regular part-time position.
Well, I thought it was.
He's asking for that.
But he didn't need our approval because it's less than 28 hours.
I'll give you that, but
it isn't regularly scheduled, and that's what the requirement was, in regular scheduled hours, and they are. It's Monday through Wednesday, 7 days a week.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
That was one of these stipulations.
Yeah. So she doesn't meet that qualifications. Which one doesn't she meet?
The hours.
Yeah. But I thought
it said not more than 28.
Not more than 28. So she's working not more than 28.
Right.
And she's regularly scheduled, so she should qualify in my mind for the $12.50.
Because you're right.
Yeah.
She's not more than 28, and she is on the schedule.
Yeah.
Then it's the 12.
And he didn't need our approval to do that because it's less than 28 hours.
It's less than.
Yes.
That's the way I understand it.
So I think she is eligible for $12.50.
Well, at this point, you end up with another situation because in your letters, you should, at least the ones I sent you have a request from the treasurer, which is the same individual. Who wants the same individual to make $12.50 an hour, because then works over there Not the treasurer, sorry, the recorder. I apologize.
I was just saying,
I apologize.
That's what I was gonna
Kim was
ask,
like-
because
I
if I go
apologize.
over there, then as a department, if I wanted to use somebody like Jeannie that's only working 3 days over there, would I need to pay her $12.50? Or would I need to pay
Okay,
her
that's
$12?
what this is the can of worms.
Well, it's gotta be
So she's
regular
working two
schedule.
different offices, is what you're saying?
Yeah, she works for the recorder on Thursday and Friday.
So why
Right,
don't
so
we make
that's
that-
now no longer a part-time position.
Right, now
That's
she's
now
full-time.
full-time.
That's like
That's
they
a
say.
full-time
We
position.
created a full-time position,
Yes.
which I won't support.
Oh, you can't do
But
that.
you're in two different departments, though.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Employee
Doesn't
of the
Matter.
county.
You're an employee of the county. Doesn't matter.
I will not support that.
No, we can't have that.
No, see.
I know she's working two different.
So this becomes more than just raising the salary a little bit.
You're looking at benefits and
Exactly
everything
right.
else.
And that's why, the reason that's being done is because that's what was gotten by with the float. Is that work 3 days in the veterans office as well as this worked in the recorder's office for 2 more days. And
Well,
so
she
that's
wasn't
something
qualified anyway, because she did.
She was a full-time employee, she was hired that way. That's just the way that one was, but of course that doesn't exist.
Yeah, this could
And
be.
this is essentially what's been attempted to be created.
This could turn out to be tough, because she does meet the criteria to be regularly scheduled in less than 28 hours, so she does meet that criteria. But I don't think she can work 5 days as a part-time. I think it's, once you get that category, you're full-time employee.
Full-time.
I think, which means she may not be able to work.
Full-time,
Those
by
other-
state standards, is 37.5 hours, isn't it?
State government, so.
So
Full-time.
Or full-time for the county is 35.
35?
35.
Well, now you are working the two offices.
She has to reduce her hours someplace.
Mary Alice's statement was, I would like to see my part-time person make $12.50 an hour. She works 2 days for my office and 3 days for the veterans officer. Please consider her for permanent part-time.
And that would
That's a
be-
full-time position at that point.
Yeah, 35 hours, yeah.
And
You can't do that.
Yeah, that'll have to stop.
that's got to stop.
If you do the 12.50, she'd have to reduce hours. They get below the 35 threshold.
We got to get below the 28 now. And then
Well, I don't know, 'cause
There's
that's
no
two
approval for that.
separate positions.
that's very limited.
Yeah, this veterans office hired her for 3 days, less than 28 hours. And then the veterans, and then the.
Okay, so they may not have to come to you for approval, but they're still,
Right.
at the hours, those
Yeah,
hours are
yeah,
still the same.
yeah. They wouldn't have to come for approval, they can do that, but they'd have to reduce their hours someplace and fall in under that 35-hour thing. So it may not be worth, but may not even be able to continue now that you're aware of that. She may not be able to continue.
Yeah,
that
it just
position.
pays to have us aware of that now,
Yeah.
because she should be considered full-time.
Yeah.
So that'll have to stop.
So you can't act like you didn't know it, because you already do know it.
Right here.
So that 50 cents an hour increase may not compensate losing an hour or two of work a week, but that's maybe what she has to do. Has to be under 35, right? 35 hours is the magic number for full-time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So long as she works 34, she's okay at part-time at that rate. She just had to lose an hour somewhere.
And then you're starting to.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
I'm playing games.
You are playing that game, then there is no doubt about
I
it.
like playing games.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on. We're just not doing anything with it. Yes, I would suggest that Mary Alice and him figure that out, because right now it's a full-time position and they cannot do that. So they need to figure that out soon. Okay, the clerk. We all know you all heard Henry, so what do you want to do about that?
I just said I'm not in favor of adding a position. In one situation, I'm the same way. Maybe he's talked to me about it a bunch, and I understand the justification, but I'm not in favor of adding it.
I think we can all understand and appreciate the mess that they're in, but I have to agree.
Well, you're gonna have to find a cutoff date on that scan.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But the problem with adding a full-time position comes $35,000 in insurance and all the rest of the benefits comes along with it, and I cannot.
So.
Gentlemen, may I offer a possible solution? As before, I offered Kathy for like a part-time when we're not doing personal property and stuff, because she's not. Gayla and I are busy all the time. I'm not in advocating getting rid of Kathy, but what I'm saying is, when it's not personal property time and some of these other things, I don't always have something for Kathy to do. I've got her doing busy work. But if Henry could teach her, or she could go help him.
Send her up there. Fine, send her up.
Okay.
You've made that offer 2 or 3 times, and I don't know how many times anybody's taken you up on it, but I mean, I
Well, one
appreciate
time
your,
Mary Alice did, and that was it.
I appreciate your willingness to do that because, I mean, if it's simply,
I need her, but I only need her.
yeah, I mean,
you
if
know,
even if she just does, I hate to say this, but she does busy work for him for a while, and that person, somebody that would be doing that, can focus on the things that they're supposed to do or this other stuff. Absolutely.
Okay. Since I'm hearing that's where you were headed, I'm willing. We're a team here. We all should be helping each other.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to.
If she could scan a day or 2 a week, where you don't have to have her down here, that would take a load off things.
Okay.
And if
Still
they
think
don't-
we need to find a cutoff date for the record scanning though. Going, scanning 100 years
I
worth
know
of records,
Judge would like to have it back to 1879, but that's not gonna happen.
it's not feasible.
No, so I think they need to work out a date, and then they should probably be, but cut it back to 1990 or whatever.
Whatever. I'm not getting settled that for them.
Yeah, they'll have to settle that themselves.
Get a concrete date down and,
Go there and then just do what has to be up beyond that.
there you go. That's between that.
So from what I'm hearing, it's no on
No,
full time.
nope.
No, no, no.
That's a no.
Okay, that's a no. Okay. Settle the solid waste.
Good. It's not.
What else you want to do?
Insurance.
Yeah, we kind of went over that.
Yeah, but are we gonna, I mean, some of us have talked, I'll make clear my position is that we do not do an increase in the line items for insurance with the exception of the park because we have simply underfunded that one. That was by, we didn't have that much fudge into that for the increase last year. We did an additional earlier this year to catch that one up. So we'll go ahead and leave that increase in to get
And that was already more.
That's
That wasn't Chris's mistake.
Chris's fault. It had nothing to do with him. It's our fault. So I would put out there to hold the line sideways for 22.
What's the percentage of our budget?
What is the 5%? What is 5%? What's the dollars?
About $2.5 million on the insurance. Don't know about that. On
Okay, so well, I'm not going to dig out the last two that are small, but 3.6 million is 5%. That's with 5% increase. So if we go back here,
5% over what?
yeah, that would be the number.
Over the 2.8?
That would be the number. You got to get highway in that too.
No, okay.
So you're talking 210,000 roughly.
So a 5%
5% increase is 210. So, you know, 3.6 million is what the number would end up being at the 5% in there. It was 3.39 last year in just the general and the highway. The only two lefts, probation and park, which is just one person each.
And you got 1.3 million in reserves for the insurance where we've been under budget every year.
Yeah, but you can't spend all that down though because we have claim. Why, we'll still be on the hook.
But if you're talking 10,000, so you're talking 210,000, so you're talking 20% of that to offset the increase. That's really what self-insured is supposed to do. Whatever surplus you get to keep, you use that to offset the increase the next year. But we can work with whatever you want. Give us a number, and that's what we do.
See if we can hold the line 1 year.
Well, after an 18% increase last year, I don't really think it would hurt to
Well, that'd be significant, and that was covering their butt for the increase. So we may well be in that area, but we won't know yet. But that was planning for who knows what's going to happen this year, but it has not been as bad for them with the reinsurance as they thought it could be, which it could have been. Nobody knew what this COVID thing was going to do. So we'll have considerable savings there. We are looking at changing the pharma, and that may save us some dollars. IPEP may come in at a better number. It would be less of a plan, but it might come in a better number. I have every confidence that our plan is a better plan than the Vermilion County, although I don't know that. We have clinic access, which saves us a lot of money. And that's why we end up with $275,000 under budget at the end of the year. That doesn't show because we're not aware of that. We don't know that. So that money is not available to offset the possible increases the next year. So it's actually a moneymaker for the county by $275,000. The county actually made $250,000 off of our insurance policy.
At this point, maybe somebody can answer a couple of these questions. What is the in-network deductible for a family plan right now?
I don't have
$6,000.
How much?
$6,000.
Is that what it is? It's $5,400 in Vermilion.
$3,000 for an individual, $6,000 for a
It's $2,850 over there.
What is their HSA?
Their HSA is $1,000 compared to our $2,600. Does anybody know the maximum out of pocket at this point?
I just looked at it.
Come on, Katie, spit it out.
I know, usually I'm on it. I try to be.
6,000.
Yeah, I don't remember that one either. It's $3,700 and $7,400 over there.
Yeah, I think we're at 6, yeah. And those deductibles ours are embedded. I don't know if their deductibles embedded in their plan or not. Embedded means that the deductible applies toward your maximum out of pocket. Some policies do, some policies
In some
don't.
cases, it's
Yeah.
right.
So we don't know about that. So it's a little tough.
No, that's the question. I can't.
Yeah,
Co-insurance on co-insurance 100% on it. This I'm reading all in network.
Insurance is almost impossible to compare apples to apples because you don't know where all the
That's true, but I'm sorry. I keep going back to this. That's a big difference.
It is.
Huge difference. And, I made it clear in the highway increases. I made it clear last year then that we have to do something about the insurance, and it's the reason I put on the table that we do not rate or have an increase in insurance costs.
Okay, we're gonna vote because we're thinking we're beating the dead horse here, so yay or nay, either put the 5% in or take it out.
No.
No. Out. Hey, there you are. That's how it is. So you know what you have to spend. So.
Just so you can
Okay.
afford to go.
But if we have to cut benefits, make sure everyone understands that'll be on us.
Well, you need to look for another policy.
I understand, we are. We are. I can't make them.
No.
We can just take what's available.
Get away from Apex. What else do you need to know? We got ready to talk about salaries or?
Oh, let me look here. See if there's anything else I've got. Deal with that. Okay. I think that's about really. Unless somebody's had something they heard this morning that, or you want to know whether it's in or out or anything, I can answer those. Pretty much what was asked for. This is a little different than how it's oftentimes been handled. Pretty much what got asked for is in there. The only message when I reached out to the coroner was that autopsies are going up, but she's held the line and would hope to get through 22 without an increase in that, which she did. She ran that up $1,000. Hopefully, if you get
Well, it's not like that's going to be something she's going to do unless she has to.
That's right. I mean, there's not much she can
That's
do
out
about
of her
that.
control. So,
But
I
she
mean,
did
God
take
damn
that
it,
money.
yeah.
She took that money out of other places, some of it the best she could. So, if there's any questions about that before we go into salaries, that of anything that you heard about that you want to know if it's in there or not, I'll answer.
Well, let's go over what we think
Okay.
about salaries and see.
All right, so here's what I propose, and this is something to throw on the table, and we'll see where we go from here. My proposition is $1,000 across the board for all full-time employees from the normal fund at which they get paid from at this point. So they're in the general fund or whatever it is, $1,000, $500 for the part-time salaried positions, that would be essentially the positions like the coroner, surveyor, and veterans officer, which are salaried, exempt, full-time positions. A quarter an hour for the permanent part-time positions that we've talked about. This position that we just talked may be subject to that. 50 cents an hour for the highway. The dispatcher positions moved up from where they stand to $34,000 a year apiece. The dispatcher supervisor to $35,000. No change in the other part-time rate of $12. No change in the EMS part-time rate. The council, $250 apiece, commissioners $500. In addition to that, from the ARP fund,
This is the American Recovery Plan.
$2,000 per year to the following positions for the next 5 years, roughly. This has to be
Well,
spent by
let's
the end of-
be careful what we say though, because we're only doing just for
This is
22,
actually
so
it's
there's
okay.
no promise, I don't wanna make any promises beyond 22. Cause I don't think we can really
Okay.
do that. Go ahead.
The deputies, the sergeants, the detective, and the chief deputy at the sheriff's department, the jailers, the supervisors, and the jail commander, the dispatchers and the supervisor, the EMTs, and the EMS director. So that would be $2,000 next year.
So that would be an
each of them.
additional 2,000 on top of the 1,000 that they would receive normally. but
Correct.
more.
Finally,
Might want to add that the commissioners would have to approve that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
they have to approve that.
And that's off of that ARP money, which may
From the
dry up,
feds.
and if it does dry up, then that
Back
goes
to current
away.
level.
We may very well, if this continues on through the life of ARP, or it doesn't, it may not be sustained back into the regular fund. But at this point, we think that it's appropriate to, and it's one of the things that can be used for ARP, it's appropriate to put this position there.
Basically, it's for the first responders.
Correct.
And public safety, yeah.
Good.
Okay?
Good to go.
So from that,
What is that? What does that number end up being? About 90,000?
that's 90,000
From the ARP.
From ARP. The other increase is 132,546 roughly.
So that doesn't include anything about Social Security, retirement.
No, PERF and Social Security end up following that.
You don't need to
Overtime
calculate
follows
that, I'm
that.
just making a point. Just making a point.
Right. I mean, they all end up going up from that, and that never gets calculated into these estimates. Okay, that's what I would propose at this point.
So there's your starting point or your ending point. I mean, whatever you all think.
Basically, what we do with the dispatchers, just get them up to jailers.
The jailers and the dispatchers would be,
What are their current levels at?
well, I can tell you, you can backwards calculate this if you would like. The dispatchers would get a $5,500 raise. The jailers would get a $3,000 raise. And they were at 33, they'll go to 36, so you can, it'll be 30,500 this year is what the dispatcher is, so. It'd be a 36 salary if it's all approved.
What's the increase of our general fund then compared to last year? What are we looking at? What percent?
$3.94. It's a little over, it's $325,000. .94% increase. 10% of that's in the sheriff's department, 15% of that's in public defender, which you haven't heard that statement.
We'll be hearing from the judge at our September meeting
Yeah.
about the public defender and that sort of thing.
The deputies are currently at 37.5. And then with the ARP funds, it'd be 3,000 plus the 1,000.
2,000.
2 plus 1.
2 plus 1. Okay.
And that too is basically a grant, it's soft money.
Right.
And so then, if I were them, I wouldn't budget it down the line too far.
Right.
Well, that's why I discourage it. I mean, I would think that we could do it for the life of that grant, but, you know, I don't want to make promises. We
Washington
can't
can
keep.
change that.
Whatever. I mean, I think it's a reasonable use of some of that money. I mean, that's kind of what part of the reason we got it. It's 90,000. I mean, I don't make light of 90,000, but
It's used for a living.
Oh, we have plenty of places to spend it. That won't be a problem.
well, if they want me put on the roads like I would like, why much of it is going to the roads, but I don't seem to. That doesn't seem to be going to work out for me. So.
Yeah.
That's not public safety.
Well, it ought to be. Hey, I hadn't thought about that angle.
All right, so I'd like to have an answer on that subject at this point, because there's still a couple, 3 more subjects when it comes to salaries that we need to hash out. Now I can go on with that, and we
Well,
can
you
do it all
won't-
together or whatnot here.
You walled those numbers back and forth for, I mean, that's.
I walled them a bunch of times.
That's
I
pretty
think
much what's gonna
I
come
think
out.
it's manageable now. I mean,
It's manageable.
point well taken that we may not do the 2,000 in ARP next year or the year after. I don't know.
Well, I just don't want to promise that. I'm not saying we won't, but I
saying
just
we
not
can't,
promising it.
but
I'd say let's try it that way 1 year and see how we go along.
I agree.
simply putting it out there. So
Remember, subject to commissioner approval.
We gotta do something that's a starting point.
Take it from there, let's go.
okay, so is that what I'm calculating on?
Yep. Yep.
All right. Now these will require a little bit of discussion. The following positions would be taken off of comp time and made overtime eligible, subject to commissioners approving this as well, because this is their department. We would fund it if they deem it to be appropriate. The jailers, the dispatcher supervisor, and the jailer supervisors. Now, along with that comes the following that will be included in the salary ordinance, that the staffing levels that exist at this point will not be increased. So if you staff 4 people for a situation that doesn't give the green light to now staff 6 because you can pay them overtime. These positions are all subject to being at a location all the time. Somebody has to be there. I believe that it is appropriate to put it on the table to discuss this. Of making those positions that are captive, is I think the term I'd like to use in this, that they're captive to a clock in and clock out location for public safety, and you cannot be without them eligible for overtime, but it cannot be used as an increase for the number of people working at any point. Okay, my thinking on this is I'm gonna throw numbers out because I don't have a clue what this is gonna cost. It becomes how many people are we short, how many are we not, and so on and so forth. But I would plug 90,000 in the sheriff's general fund department for the jailers, and 50,000 in the 911 fund for the dispatchers, which is why I asked Chris the question earlier about can you fund all the dispatchers out of 911. That will have to be done as an additional in January. There's not enough room to put it in there now.
So how do you see the transition, if we all go for this and the commissioners approve, how do you see the transition then? Because I would assume a lot of these people have comp time that are owed to them by us. Of course, this eliminates, I assume, once we get the ship righted here, then I assume that eliminates them for comp time. No more comp time for those positions, assuming the commissioners pass them.
Well, I'm confident that the commissioners will. We would just soon do away with all comp time and pay everything overtime.
and I've been one of the parents that have been against this, but in these positions, it's hard to argue when you have a person tied directly that position and somebody that we have to have there, obviously dispatcher, obviously jailer, why I'm for it. I'm not for it in other locations and other areas because I think it'll be abused. But that being said, how do you see the transition in? Because we'll have to pay these people their
That's true. You're gonna pay out their comp time.
time, which we would have had to anyway.
Exactly.
It's not a
Sooner or later.
sooner or later, but how do you see that working?
Well, I don't know the answer to that entirely outside of, I think we could work it out in a multitude of different ways. You can either start when this would start, beginning of 22 would be what I would think. And at that point, they stop accumulating, they have a number, and you could either, one of two ways, we could either pay it out right then and there, or it could be set up to be paid out over time.
Really see
over the
it
year.
over time.
Now, which is better? I don't know, but we're going to decide which way it gets handled. It's not going to be one you don't get to pick. It's going to be one or the other.
Well, I mean, if we put all this in place come January 1st, why, there'd be an overtime then as soon as they pass that. And then we've got to figure out then how to then compensate them for their comp time and where that's come from.
I know.
How about taking it out of the ARC money? It could be several dollars, I don't know. I think in some cases it could be.
We got our money to spend.
For some of the people that have been there a long time, they have a lot of comp time.
So I know Ed Roach has got close to 900 hours, if not more.
Ed's not included.
It's not.
Ed is an exempt position as far as. This is for the
Jailers.
hourly jailer, dispatcher, supervisors, and jail supervisors.
Well, I mean, regardless, we owe these people. It's not that it could be a significant amount.
It could be.
I don't know. You could. What do you think about that question about the ARP money or not?
I wouldn't go plan on spending ARP money on anything until we can get together as a group and see what we got. Tough to budget. For me, it's tough to budget on money that I don't have control over. I'm just one voice on that other, so.
Until they use it?
It makes sense to me. I would support it. I would support paying that if that was an eligible expense. Pay it off lump sum, be done with it, and move on from there is what would be my support. But we may not even be in a position of spending that money for another year. So we don't know.
Well, it's just a suggestion. I was just trying to use that.
Sure.
This ARP money, that all's going to have to come through here too, and we're not going to buy toys with it. So I would rather see it go to something that maybe you can justify that we did get some good out of it. We owe these people, but if it's not allowed, it's not allowed. I guess we just come up with it through other funds if we can't pay.
How about
that
this?
out of it.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we have Justin and Chris get a count on how many hours we owe at this point?
Because that's kept at the department level, isn't it?
And
That is correct.
yes, it is. And so why don't we have them get us an amount of hours that we owe per person, per position? I don't care about I don't want the names. That's not my point. But per position, because they are different rates at this point, and find out what the obligation is, and then we can figure out from there whether or not we.
And if we can't pay from ARP, why?
We can
so
do.
be
We
it.
can additionally
I can't
appropriate
imagine
it after the first year, huh?
I can't imagine the commission would support that. I don't know if that's an eligible expense or not. That's all we have.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, that's.
Well, would you agree it's an eligible expense to just pay the additional salaries out of that?
I can't answer that question because I don't know what is.
Well,
we
we
can
read
get-
that.
we can-
Public
we can get-
safety.
We can get bonuses. We can get bonuses
Well,
to
that's
first
what it is.
Well, that's
responders.
basically what it is.
Yeah, that's
It's
all.
just gonna be spread
That's a
out.
one-time bonus thing. And talk about
We
playing
can
games.
change the language and call it.
You can't put it like salary when it's not really a bonus that you want to pay
Well,
out
we
so
can
much.
put it as a bonus.
Well, you can pay a bonus out over time just the same.
Get a bonus every paycheck.
Yeah. Just got to keep in mind that anything that they come back after a year or 2 years, by the end of 2026, and they decide was not eligible, you don't get that money back. We got to pay it back, and then it's just gone.
Well, we're gonna pay times something.
We got 3.3 million compared to these counties that are getting 100 million.
Yeah.
That's what.
I have a feeling they're not
$90,000.
police that tough anyway, quite honestly. They can't even do basic things in Washington, so Lord knows policing. Whether or not we spent 90,000 out of something is correct or not. Good luck.
Let's try that, Art. If we can't, like I said, if we
Well,
have-
let's get a number of hours per position, okay, so that we have an idea of what the obligation is. Because if the situation is right, if we make these positions eligible, then we have to pay out the comp time. So let's get a number. Let's find out what it is. Two more questions. After the big salary increase at the highway department in the summer, that now puts most of those positions ahead of the highway superintendent. I don't think that's the way anybody would intend for that to be. That the highway superintendent is making less than certainly the supervisor, and really close to being less than truck drivers and so on. So from that, my proposition on that would be that he has moved up to 45,000 to stay ahead of, close to ahead. And I need to get some more information from them on his comp time balance we've been paying down over the last 3 years. And assuming that we haven't gotten that taken care of yet, which I don't believe we have, then we would continue to pay that down to get that exhausted. Any thoughts on any of that?
we need to be making more than truck drivers. He's gonna have a lot of responsibility.
Well, he does have a CDL.
Yeah.
I have no problem giving him a raise.
Because that's basically what you're paying for when you up goes.
That's right. You're paying for that. And
That's something we'll have to look at in the event that he retires and somebody else comes in. Somebody else isn't going to want to come in and run that department and make less than what their truck drivers are making.
that's why we're going to have to get it up at least somewhat now.
Start there.
Huh?
Start there. So, 45 funding's there. Good.
Mike, just touch on briefly, maybe you already have, talk about the highway. I mean, funding level is back pre-COVID and more.
Yeah, I can talk. Yeah, we got back above, back to where we would be, and it's after last year's huge drop. It's up 500, almost 550,000 is the estimate for next year. So that's good. We used that reserve that we held in there for this year to get through that. So we should be able to sustain that. The income revenues are up modestly. All in, they're up about 110,000. Local road and street was up 45,000, put it back about where it was. Property tax growth at 4.3% will yield about 139,000. So the revenues are up all in because of most of this is line share. This is in the highway, up $883,000. So it's recovering what we had lost last year, which was down better part of $1 million. All the funds at this point, as we've discussed, are in the green. The reserve level is decent. We didn't talk about the TIFs, so this budget at times doesn't look very good, but there's $1.25 million in there for the sewer project on 41 North out of the central TIF district if it actually finally happens. $285,000 in debt, courthouse loans. Any specific questions about any of it all? The general fund looking at about 8.6 million. Seated 865,000. CCD 372. public safety, 624. MVH with the two combined, 4.5. Reassessment, 170. Park and Rec, 231. 911, 216. Talk about that. So,
With what we proposed, what do you look at total?
total budget
Yep.
without the redevelopment commission, because I think that skews everything every time, 17.564.
17.564. Last year we were 16,394. So basically 1.2 up.
I had 16,321 equivalent last year, so 1.2. Yeah.
That's what I had last year.
7%, 7.6% all in.
So that's all we can stand.
The only thing in the ARP is at this point is those deals that ARP funds created, and some of that money's in now, but that's what we have requested to be considered in that. I already talked about it.
So I'll read you some. This is from Christy Jacob. She emailed me. Kurt said you had some questions about the position titles. The only thing I was asking to change is to change director to A&R agent, which I don't know really that much about that. Historically, the A&R educator has been the director, but it can be tied to any educator. It's just more accurate to list it this way as an educator instead of the director. The other two remain the same as they have been, although we're considered educators now rather than agents. It's really just semantics in this.
That's entirely what this is.
Yeah, it really doesn't have any. She doesn't say anything about
The
third position and whether or not where that's going to be half 4-H or not.
They won't talk about that. Julie didn't talk about that.
So I pass it on.
Okay, so any other questions before we move forward with this the rest of the way?
So go ahead with it.
Okay, we'll see how that goes.
Adoption will be scheduled for a regular October meeting. Well,
we'll hear from the judge in September about the pauper attorneys, and I think that's already, you already have that in there.
that's in there. Yeah, I mean, this request is in there. It's baked into it. You know enough of it. I'm not even trying to explain him what him do it, but for me, Fountain and Park are looking to go together in a public defender district together so that they can pool the resources together. There's a lot of reasons to do it, including the fact that it's difficult to get public defenders. He can talk about it much better than I. It's an important conversation.
I think they all use the same terms anyway.
Somewhat. They obviously go between, but they cannibalize each other at times with it, and they're trying to find a better way to skin the cat to deal with another problem that society's gotten into.
Is that common in other areas of the state?
It's the only. If enacted, it'll be the only one in the state. It'll be the first ones to do it. It hasn't been terribly long that it's been allowed. This concept has been created, but nobody's actually done it yet. So I credit the judge and his peers in those two counties for looking at it another way.
Exactly.
It's getting more and more expensive.
It costs out of hand.
Yeah, just in my time here, it has gone up tremendously as well, and the Constitution is pretty clear that you got to provide representation to someone. And
know the local attorney's offices are having a hard time staffing positions too, so it's, everybody's busy and understaffed.
You want that? You have any use for that? Nope. I say you can, because I just have it on the computer. Okay. Okay, well, I guess so we don't have anything else that, so we're actually gonna adjourn, because then we will not be back tomorrow. We decided that, first time we've done that, where we've been able to do it all one day, but thanks to Roy for all of his work.
Absolutely.
Crunching of numbers.
So move adjournment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I feel like